All right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Douglas School Committee meeting on September 18th. The Douglas Public Schools provides a diverse learning experience that meet the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of all students. We provide safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of the students. So we're going to now call the meeting to order. And would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to call our student representatives, and if I butcher your last names, I apologize. Zoe Musgrove and Gina Muscatelli? Grace Muscatelli. I'm very sorry, Grace.
Good evening, school committee. Thank you for having us. My name is Grace Muscatel, and I am with Zoe Musgrove. We are newly elected student council members this year. Our job this year is to help plan many fun activities.
This school year has started off very well. Each grade has gotten to know their teachers and classmates through SEL lessons and activities.
The sixth graders have toured the school and gotten used to a new schedule and moving from class to class, including enrichment and reading across the curriculum, as well as related arts. The best part is the speed of how fast the classes go by and having much more freedom. In math, they are learning about PEMDAS and exponents. They love Mrs. Finlay's videos and visuals. In science, they are learning about safety equipment use in order to do some fun labs. Latitude and longitude is being learned with Mrs. Auger in history, and in ELA, Mrs. Martinson is focusing on motivational quotes for their selfies that will be posted in the classroom.
In 7th grade, science has been the highlight, with jumping right into labs, including a gum-chewing lab with independent and dependent variables. Students have also enjoyed playing games to study the topic. In ELA, we are reading a novel called Ground Zero about the events of 9/11 and creating personal narratives. We are learning about positive and negative integers in math and reviewing time zones in history in preparation for a quiz. The teachers have all made us feel comfortable, and having 2 electives and locker breaks is a change we are all enjoying.
8th graders have gotten familiar with the Spanish language through Emergence with Mrs. Reber. We are learning about different cultures and listening to Spanish music. They are enjoyable getting to know their new teachers, and they are happy to have Miss Bronzo as a familiar face in science. She has already taught us scientific inquiry, scientific method, with a test planned for Friday. In civics, we are analyzing political cartoons, and in English, we are completing our summer reading activity and practicing identifying main ideas. In math, Mrs. Tamilio is teaching coordinate planes and graphs.
Sports team have gotten off to a great start. Middle school cross country has had 2 meets already, and all of the runners are doing very well. It is great to see new members this year. Some 8th graders and 7th graders are members of the high school golf team, soccer teams, and volleyball teams. It is nice to be a part of these communities and get to know some high schoolers. Thank you for your time, and have a great night.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Thank you both for coming.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here for public comment? All righty. Old business,
Nothing at this time?
new business.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. We're going to start off tonight with one of my favorite parts of school committee is the introduction of new staff to the community and to the committee. I think it's important for our new teachers, our new paraprofessionals, cafeteria workers to meet our school committee, and also for our school committee to have the opportunity to put a name with a face, or a face with a name of our teachers. So principals and directors are going to introduce. You just need to stand up and wave. Pretty simple, and we'll go from there. So we will start with Miss Keegan today.
Okay, so I would like to first introduce Allison O'Rourke, our new food service director.
Hi, Allison.
Allison?
Welcome.
Allison holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Nutrition and Health Science from the University of Rhode Island, and is finishing up her Master's of Education in School Nutrition at Framingham State University. She has several years of experience as a food service director with Arameric, yeah, I know, I didn't know I was going to get that right. Prior to that, she worked for several years for Sedesco as a patient services manager in the area of nutrition, and also for several years at Zambarano Hospital as well as a nutrition consultant. She has spent the last couple of months getting everything up and running for the start of the school year, including training in August for the food service staff, food supply orders, as well as a host of other tasks related to closing out the fiscal year, FY24, and getting ready to open for the new school year. So she hit the ground running. Okay. And also, Allison will be coming to a future school committee meeting to talk to the school committee about, what's going on in the food service department as her own kind of introduction to food services here in Douglas here, and what she plans on doing going forward, some plans for going forward as well. That would be a little ways out. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm very excited to have Allison here.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome.
I feel like we should clap. Okay. Like awkward silence. All right, Dr. Rosenthal. Oh, you have more?
I had more.
Oh, sorry.
I definitely have
Sorry,
more.
I got so excited.
And I'm so happy we clapped, because I'm very excited about all these new hires that we have. So I'd also like to introduce, unfortunately, Michelle Esposito could not be here this evening. She's in Boston with her daughter at a concert, but I would like to introduce Michelle Esposito. She's our new assistant to the business manager for accounts payable. Michelle holds an associate's degree in business administration from Assumption College. She worked over 30 years with the city of Worcester in the Office of Community Development, Employment and Training, and most recently, for the past 20 years, for the Fire Department in Worcester, in which she had a host of experience in accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, human resources, purchasing, grant writing, monitoring, and she hit the ground running, acclimating to our, processes and procedures, but of course, she already had a lot of experience. City government is a little bit different than municipal, but still, a lot of it's the same. She's been a really good team member, working, in other areas within our office too. So I'm very, very happy with that. So we've had some really good recent hires. So we also have, I'd like to introduce Leo Cintron as a custodian for the elementary school night shift. Very difficult to find people for the night shift, I know I was saying earlier. And he has over 2 years of experience as a custodian at the Blackstone Millville Regional School District. Prior to that, he was a maintenance foreman for over 2 years at a school for disabled children. Prior to that, he was an OR, operating room support sanitation technician at Roger Williams Hospital. So he brings a host of experience in his new role, with custodial, maintenance, landscaping, groundswork, plowing. He immediately acclimated to his position here in Douglas, and there's been definitely a noticeable difference. It took us years, really, to get the nighttime shift. And then, last but not least, I would like to introduce Zachary Coughlin Williams as a custodian at the middle school night shift as well. And Zachary worked at Blair House in Milford as a housekeeper initially, and then transitioned to maintenance. In these roles, a lot very similar to Leo, his job responsibilities included custodial, maintenance, landscaping, grounds work, snow removal, and also immediately acclimated to his position here in Douglas as well. And again, I think that Bob would say, and also Ken, it's been a noticeable difference as well. So I am very happy, because these two positions were very difficult to fill. Everything's going very well. We hired people that had a good amount of prior experience, and, knock on wood, which is right here if I can't find any, we're in a, from my point of view, we're in a very good place. We do have another new custodian that's going to start on September 30th for the part-time grounds in the primary school, 2 to 6. So that'll be all, except for one other. This is split between elementary and middle for nighttime, and then the new position that we approve. But I mean, I'm just happy to be fully staffed before we get there, But thank you very much. I'm very happy.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
And on that note,
Dr. Rosenthal.
Thank you. We have two people we're going to introduce tonight. We are going to start with our halftime OT, Karen Sherris.
Hi,
Karen is joining us. She has over 7 years' experience in the adult care and insurance-based OT world. This is her first time in the school setting, but she's done an excellent job adjusting, and she's already hit the ground running, to take Courtney's line. She's already built her schedule and started seeing students, has done an excellent job adjusting. Through her work experience, she's worked with individuals with adult daily living requirements, physical requirements that require therapeutic activities, wheelchairs, and other assistive equipment. So the committee was very ensured that she'd do a great job with students and acclimate herself pretty well with us, which she has done an excellent job. Her educational background, she has a master's of OT from Quinnipiac, where she also got her bachelor's of health sciences. I want to welcome her aboard. She's already been an amazing addition.
Welcome. Middle and high school?
So currently, we're still working a little bit of the schedule out. We need a full-time OT. That the person resigned right before the start of the school year. We actually just interviewed someone tonight, right before school committee, so the hope is there. However, Karen's primary role is actually at the primary school, working a lot with the inner students. Second, we're going to introduce is our middle and high school coordinator, new. This is Kate Buck.
Hi, Kate. Welcome. See you again, Beth. Nice to see you.
Kate is joining us. She has experience as a learning center coordinator in a pseudo-administrative role in Framingham, working in the sub-separate program, really developing and establishing a program that was non-existent prior, and really developing a schedule and skill development within the Framingham High School. She also had worked at Accept Collaborative as a team chair, so she has the experience running and facilitating team meetings. And she was also an ABA therapist prior to that. So she has a wealth of background and experience within the programs, and also what is in the best interest of all students. She's, again, without even blinking an eye, it's been like she's a veteran here in Douglas, really working at the building levels with principals, with the staff, coordinating a lot of what we're going to talk about later on with the procedures and compliance, making sure that everything's up and running, because she started right before school, and it wasn't a big learning curve for her. She's already done an excellent job and been instrumental in a lot of the things that we were looking to accomplish this year already. So I just want to welcome her aboard, and she's been excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mrs. Sosha.
So I am really excited to introduce Jenna Racine, and she is our newest preschool teacher. She has the youngest, the youngest population, our 3-year-olds, so she welcomes a group in the morning, then she regroups for about a half an hour if she's lucky, and then another whole group comes in. And she's just a natural. I mean, if you saw her from day one, right down there, right down at their level, talking to them, they're sitting in her lap in the classroom, so she is just a gem that we were lucky enough to get. She earned her master's degree in special education from Assumption College. She comes to us after teaching as an integrated preschool teacher in Sudbury, Mass. She relocated, so that's how we were lucky enough to get her, so she's closer to home right now. And her certifications include elementary grades 1 to 6, pre-K to 2, and moderate special needs pre-K to 8. And she fits right in, right from day one. She's just part of our team, so welcome. And we also have, and I don't think they're with us tonight, Brenna King. She is a kindergarten 1 to 2 paraprofessional. She earned her Bachelor of Science from Lynn University in Hospitality and Business. She has 6 years' experience as an assistant manager in retail and hotel management. She's been a stay-at-home mom. We have her son, who is 3, for the past few years, and now she's looking forward to working with students, and she's been doing a great job with the 2 students she's with. Meredith Reardon is our kindergarten paraprofessional, and she holds a bachelor's in elementary education from Assumption University. It is a recent grad, 2024. She was active in the Education Club and Active Minds, and she played on the Women's Soccer Club at Assumption. And she's also working well, and she's fit right in with the kindergarten teacher. It was a nice match that we made with another younger teacher, so it was perfect. We have Kaylee Ide, and she is our remediation para, and she is also a recent grad from UMass Boston with a degree in early childhood education, and she's actually a Douglas student up to grade 8. And she's been back and forth into so many rooms, being remediation, she's got different roles to play in different classrooms, so she's already got the schedule down, and she's off and running. And finally, we have Megan Bevins, and she is also a kindergarten paraprofessional, and she comes to us with 2 years' experience from the Country Montessori School as a teacher's aide, and later took the role as a lead teacher. And she has 2 children in the Douglas schools, and they're all doing a fabulous job.
Wonderful.
Mr. Haynes.
Good evening. I'm really pleased I have some great new staff to introduce tonight. I don't have the same level of detail, but I'm hoping you'll come visit and talk with them and get to know their background, so forgive me for that. I'm kind of going from memory and what I've seen thus far. But I'll start, let's see. I'll start with our newest staff member at Douglas Elementary School. It's our new grade 3 teacher, Emily Capper, who today was her second day on the job. And it was wonderful because at the end of the day, I went in and I saw Emily was meeting with one of the members of the team. Afterwards, she stayed late tonight. I appreciate her coming to the meeting. She's getting married in a couple weeks, so her name is going to change. But anyway, though, so Emily Capper, she's been here. She's just the team really wanted her from the minute from the interview. I walked in there. We want her, and we were lucky to have her here. And so she's moved into the grade 3 role, and very smoothly. We're very fortunate to have her, Emily. So there's Emily, and she's also has a boot, so she's been a real trooper getting around the building, but she's got 4 years of experience teaching in public school, and she also has a strong special education background, so she brings that element as well. So welcome, Emily. So. And then I'd also like another new member to the Douglas community is our new grade 5 teacher, Liz Gillette. So Liz is going to be teaching. Liz has a strong elementary background, but has a particular passion for math and science. And since we're working in those subject-specific silos with the grade 5 team, she's going to be teaching the math and the science, primarily the math and the science for 2 classes of students. Her mom was an educator for years, and over the summer it was very, very sweet. Like her mom would come in and help her set up her classroom, and so she definitely has it in her DNA, and we're just very, very fortunate to have Liz here. And she's also in a master's program, so she's continuing her education. So welcome, Liz. And then there's 2, they're new to their roles, but not new to the district. Cindy and I are fortunate to have hired a new STEM teacher, so thank you for allowing us to have this. It's brought a great new element to the school. I heard students the other day talking about STEM and just sort of brainstorming, and it was nice to just overhear that conversation with kids, and to bring that element into the building is fantastic. But this person is not new to the district. Amanda Herman is a parent of the Douglas Elementary School system. She's a member of the community and has been at the primary building for a number of years, and now is going to be serving in this role in both buildings. So I want to welcome Amanda Herman officially as the STEM teacher at the primary and elementary. And then also, another new member of, not a new member to the team or the district, because she's been in the district for a number of years, but she's new to this role, is our grade 2 teacher, Sarah Plumundon, who's been at Douglas Elementary School. Her most recent role prior to this year was supporting as a Title I para, and I know she's also served a role at the primary building. She's also a parent, has had kids come through the system, and is just an immense pleasure to work with, and another person that I feel really lucky to have the new people on board. So I want to just give an official welcome to Sarah Plumundon, the new grade 2 teacher. We also have Renee Mosley, who is our library para. She couldn't join us tonight, but she's just been a really wonderful fit there. And then Michaela Munchie, who's a new para in our STARS program. So those are new, that's the new members of the team at the elementary school. So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Mr. O'Brien.
Good evening. I'll start with the two who could not be here today. Swati Antanapupa, I believe is correct. She comes to us with a master's degree in computer science. She's a 7th grade para. Probably the quickest interview I had before I offered her the position. I talked to her principal where she worked before in Eastern Mass. She said, hang up the phone and hire her right away. She has a 1st grader and a 5th grader here in the district, and they moved in with her husband into Douglas. I knew, you might have heard from our students that Mrs. Bronzo went up to the 8th grade. We hired this tremendous teacher, Jennifer St. John, to take her place in the 6th grade. She comes to us 2 years from Misco Middle School. And with us tonight, it's not a strange face, but Danielle Boucher, who's been an ABA in the district for about 8 years. She kept going to school, and she got her degree in special education, and she's certified as severe special ed, which is really tough to find. And when she told me that she passed her tests and got her license, I said, come work for us. So we're very fortunate to have someone that is from the district, and I think that's the best way to learn teaching is para ABA, come up that way. So very fortunate to have her in the building.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And last but not least, Mr. Ringat.
Good evening. Hello. So I am proud to introduce, I have 3 that are here and 2 that are not. I'll start with the 3 that are. First person I'm going to introduce is Mr. Elijah Martinez. Elijah Martinez is a recent graduate of Douglas High School, and he is servicing our Stars and Stripes students as an ABA. He worked kind of as a student intern when he was a senior and actually a junior for us the last couple of years, and just found a good niche. And he's phenomenal in that room. He knows how to communicate with the kids. He knows how to get them to do things that they need to work on. I couldn't have been more proud of that singular hire, and I was very happy to be able to offer him that job. So we are very happy to have Elijah on our team at this point.
Is it accurate that we hired him before he even graduated?
No. It was close.
Maybe.
It was close. Next on the list is Mr. Gregory Martinez-Torres. He is actually our new Spanish teacher working with us. He came to us from Worcester South, I believe.
Worcester East Middle.
Worcester East Middle, okay, Worcester East Middle, where he served as a Spanish teacher and an EL teacher for a few years. Surprisingly, he's also a master at martial arts and does teach little kids in that field as well. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Martinez-Torres. The third person who's here is Miss Elizabeth Berard. she serves 2 roles in the district. It was very nice to meet her when we did. So she applied as our athletic director in August-ish, and we were lucky enough to be able to interview her and bring her on board. During the interview process, she also noticed that we had an open special ed position and started talking about that. At that time, I was able to bring in both Dr. Rosenthal and Mrs. Whitkiss, who happened to be in the building at the time, and we decided to have a full-on interview about our stripes position that was open for severe special ed. She has hit the ground running in both roles, as the athletic director and as our stripes teacher, and I'm very happy with that hire as well, because she's keeping it by the book and doing it seamlessly and really getting going with community outreach and making sure our stripes kids have opportunities. So I'm very happy to introduce her as well. The 2 that are not here is our front office. We have a brand-new front office for anybody who walks into our school. For years, we had both Vicki Peck and Elaine McDermott running the front office. They have both moved on. Elaine has retired, and Vicki has moved on to work with her family a little bit more. But we've been able to fill those positions with some phenomenal people. Miss Deborah Thompson is our new administrative assistant that took Elaine McDermott's role. She is at the back desk. Seems like she's been here for a while, doesn't it?
That's exactly what I said to her. It seems like you've been here for years.
So she worked for many years at WPI in a somewhat similar role, working, I believe, under the Dean of Students and working and getting purchase orders and working through their financials as well. So it's great to have her on board. The other role is filled by Siobhan Pisano. She is new to us. She's fairly new to how schools run and the secretarial role, but she is a quick learner. She's picking everything up. She's a friendly face. She's exactly what you need for the front desk. She comes to us. She's had some opportunities with some small businesses, doing secretarial work for them as well. And so far, she has been fantastic for us as well. And again, that front desk needs to be a warm, welcoming face, and I think we hit the jackpot on that as well.
Welcome to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have to say that as bad as it is to hire right now
Yeah, we don't.
in education, it is really nice to see all this.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So again, it's been, I think with the exception of one person, I've been in all your classrooms. It's been great to see what's happening, have had the opportunity to talk to our new staff. They're welcoming, they're kind, they're passionate about what they do, and they're excited to be here, which is what all you could ask for. So just welcome to them. Thank you for the school committee for this, and thank you so much for taking time out of your days to be here tonight. You're more than welcome to stay for the next hour and a half. However, I strongly encourage you to go home and finish preparing your lessons and get some sleep for tomorrow, but feel free to stay. But I'd go home.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is my goals for the 24-25 school year. Just to go for some background for those watching from home, this summer we had a retreat, myself and the school committee, where we looked at we discussed a lot of goal setting for the year, but we also looked at my goals for the 24-25 school year. So superintendent has 4 standards that they are evaluated on, and what we did as a group collaboratively is picked one indicator from each of the standards. So I'm going to go over each of the indicators we discussed and talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to do and why we picked those indicators. Obviously, everyone here is familiar with them, but for those watching from home as well. This will be posted.
Can Scott put them on the board?
I don't have, I'm posting them on the website. Tomorrow. Okay. So the first indicator, standard 1, is on instructional leadership and standards-based unit and lesson support. And it speaks to the superintendent empowering administrators to ensure that all instructional staff collaboratively plan, adapt as needed, implement standards-based units comprised of well-structured lessons aligned to state standards and local curricula, continually monitors and assesses progress, provides feedback, and connects administrators to additional supports as needed, models as practice for others. We all know that when staff plan together, when they adapt their lessons based on student needs, when they follow the curriculum, when the curriculum is aligned to the standards, kids achieve at a higher level. That's what we're here for, academic excellence, making sure that every child reaches the fullest of their potential. So we thought this goal was appropriate at this time. We're going to continue our focus on MTSS, which is a multi-tiered system of student supports, and really working with teachers about how to remove barriers that prevent students from fully accessing the curriculum and making that progress. We talked a little bit this summer about something called ISIL. It's a framework and a structure that talks about for a student to be successful, you have to make sure there's a good solid core instruction, you have to make sure you have a curriculum in place, and you have to make sure we have a conducive learning environment. And again, we've talked a lot about the SCL, the importance of SCL. We've talked a lot about MTSS, which fits under the instruction, and now it's making sure we have the curriculum in place for teachers. We're leveraging our common planning time a little bit differently to make sure that in common planning time, we're doing a lot more discussions around what's happening inside the classroom, about our curriculum, about fidelity to our programs that we're using. In the past, we used STAR for K-5. We used NWEA for 6 through 8, and we didn't use anything other than MCAS for the high school for benchmark assessment. This year, for the first time, K-12, we're going to be using our STAR data for all 4 grades. So we'll be able to see that continuum. One thing we need to do is STAR doesn't roll over the data every year. So after, what is it, July 1, if you go back to see what happens the previous year, it's not there. So we need to make sure we have PDFs so we can pass that information forward. But really excited about that. We're doing our first benchmark assessment for STAR starting Monday the 23rd.
Are you going to do them 4 times a year, or?
Did we talk 4 or 5? 5?
5.
5 times a year.
Okay.
And again, I'd love to be able to, at some point, to not overtest kids, go to 3, but to go from September to January without that interim benchmark, and then to go from January to May without that middle benchmark. We want to make sure we're putting strategies and interventions in place every 6 to 8 weeks for students.
And the STAR, like, a lot faster for your kids? Okay.
I think you did it, Rob, at the high school today, was it today?
Yes.
Did a test pilot. How long was it?
21 minutes was the longest.
So,
21
and-
minutes per subject?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we did a test pilot. We did a test pilot in math today.
Okay.
And the assessment took 21 minutes.
And for NWA, how long were kids taking per subject?
First half of the day, before we get into lunch.
So we picked up a lot of time for that. Excited to have Panorama. I know we've talked about it, but Panorama is a warehouse that pulls data from PowerSchool, pulls data from STAR, pulls MCAS data, pulls SEL data, pulls attendance data, discipline data, all in one place for a teacher to have a full snapshot of a child without having to hit 6 or 7 different platforms to do that. And finally, our walkthroughs. We talked about this at our administrative retreat with principals and directors. All of our walkthroughs are going to focus in on 3 things, and principals and directors will be providing feedback on these things. 1, making sure lessons and activities are differentiated to meet the varied needs and the unique needs of students. So we want to see differentiation inside the classroom. Again, sometimes in a 10-minute snapshot, you may not see it, but then that provides some good conversation back and forth. Where did you differentiate? How could you have differentiated? What did you do after I left?
And Paul, I know that we've talked about this, but somebody that's watching might know that. Differentiation doesn't just mean, like, modifying it down. It also means modifying it.
It up, correct. Lesson plans include multiple means of presenting information to students. We want to make sure that we remove the barriers and teachers are presenting information in multiple ways to students, because not every child learns the same way. And then finally, we want to see evidence of UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and our DCAP strategies embedded in lessons, because we've spent so much time doing that. And A lot of this is the why of why we're doing it, and some of it's the how for that first standard. Under Standard 2, Management Operations, which is where they put social emotional well-being under management and operations, but it speaks to cultivating a district-wide commitment to developing social emotional competencies in all students, such as self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making, and assesses progress using student and staff feedback and other data sources, and makes adjustments as necessary. Models as practice for others. So that's the important piece of that SEL for our kids. Beginning of October through Panorama, we did it last year to start forming some decisions, but we're going to do a pre-test for SEL through Panorama at the beginning of the year, and then a post-test. And principals, along with members of the counseling department, will take the information from that Panorama survey and modify their morning meeting based off of what kids need. I'm going to have them present probably in December at a school committee meeting some of the results of the survey and some of what they tweaked from previous years to meet the needs of our students. And then we'll do a post-assessment at the end of the year to see what happened. A lot of this is building on what we did last year and in previous years. We talked a little bit today about asking kids what they're looking for, right? Give them the voice of what they need. And it's pretty amazing when you ask them. A lot of times, they'll share. And then another thing we talked about is ask them if they know the why behind it. Why do we have advisory? And again, I can imagine as the kids get older, the answers change, maybe a little more sass added as they get older. But again, it's still important to ask them why. I've said this before here. Last year, we had 18.5% of all students chronically absent. That's missing over 10% of the school year, which is 18 days. We had 24.3% of our high-needs students, our most vulnerable population, miss over 18 days. We have to be working on the social well-being of kids. If kids aren't in school, they can't learn, they can't succeed, but they also can't be receiving the services they need that sometimes go outside what's happening inside the classroom to go there. So trying to look at it from a different angle with SEL. Standard 3 is family and community engagement, and we talked about the cultural proficiency, communication, and I'll read the indicator and talk about how we're looking at it a little bit differently. It says to support and empower administrators to engage in regular two-way, culturally responsive communication with families about student learning and performance. District-wide communications with families will be provided in multiple formats and reflect and affirm different families' home languages, cultures, and values. We really want to try personalizing and individualizing our communication with families. We've done a great job with the mass emails, with the newsletters. We'll continue to do those things after school for families to come in, but where you really see those big gains is when you have that one-to-one interaction with families. So we're going to try to do that on a more individualized basis. We're going to look at utilizing and leveraging PowerSchool in a different way to do that communication. I've asked the principals to come up with 2 to 3 different, I'm calling them touch points. I'm going to have 5 different ways that teachers are going to reach out to families and establish that one-to-one communication. It might be a postcard home, just to say, here's what your child is doing right. It might be through a phone call. But we're looking at different ways that we can connect with families for what they need. And when you understand the individual needs of families, you can sometimes do some different things with kiddos inside the classroom. And the last standard is professional culture, under Standard 4, continuous learning. Models for administrators how to continually be reflective about their practice, fosters curiosity and a growth mindset, empowers administrators to use data, research, and best practices to adapt practice to achieve improved results. Regularly convenes administrators to collaborate and share knowledge and skills of best practices that provide student learning within their own buildings. We need to, I've said it 100 times if I said it once, we need to be reflective about our practice. The STAR K-12 is going to be a very powerful tool for us to have that. Having everything in Panorama is also a great tool for us to have conversations about students and patterns and seeing what's going on. I'll touch upon it now, but a little more detail. Our ISSP development, which stands for Individualized Student Success Plan. For 3 years, we've had different formats of ISSPs, but we really focused in on our at-risk population. And next week, when I present our accountability data, you'll see some growth with our at-risk population. And we focused in a lot on that population as a result of what happened with COVID and learning loss and trying to mitigate those gaps. I want to continue that focus going forward, but I really want to start refocusing on our kids in the middle and pushing them, and how can we get our high achieving kids to excel at a higher level. Not that we haven't done that in the past, I don't want people to think that we haven't, and we'll do that through differentiations, through other strategies, but a lot of focus happened, especially at the elementary and the middle schools, was around mitigating those gaps for our younger kids. I want to continue that and push for our middle and our high achieving students. And as I said, we're restructuring and repurposing and leveraging CPT in different ways to have conversations about data and ISSPs. I know one thing from a conversation I had with Mr. Haynes, he's going to try to, one week talk about ELA, next week talk about math, as different ways to have deeper and richer conversations about student data and students inside classroom for higher growth and achievement. So those are the 4 standards. Committee has any questions? I know we talked about this in July. Happy to answer any or clarify anything. I know I used a lot of acronyms, and I tried to clarify as I could.
Yeah, better. I'm very proud of you.
No, I just wanted to clarify some of the conversation that we had around Standard 3, especially
Yep.
for the administrators. And someone jump in here if I'm remembering this correctly, because it already feels like that was a year and a half ago. But I think the conversation that we had that we really wanted to set forth with communication within the district, especially to parents, is that keeping in mind the culture of Douglas, because there's a very big variety of what home life looks like. Be it the parent's profession, working overnight, so they can't come to the open houses that we have, and you're not going to get that one-on-one time with parents. Some people not opening the newsletters, not even realizing that they're there. So what are the other ways that our district can communicate what's going on with the schools? Another thing we talked about culturally too was like a lot of these families, especially with multiple kids, driving all over for sports every single evening and just missing things that are going on in schools. I think an example for me most recently is some syllabuses came home from the middle school, and I don't feel like I have a good grasp on what is being taught just from speaking to my child versus looking at the syllabus. I'm excited for open house this week to try to get a better grasp, but I'm afraid that not all parents might have that opportunity. So those were the things that we talked about of like, what are the better communication strategies and how can we do it in multiple ways so it meets the needs of people maybe not checking their email weekly, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to, and somebody else jump in, but I feel like that was a big
Absolutely. We spent a
conversation.
lot of time on that conversation because it was important, because we felt like when we did do like the family engagement things, we didn't have the attendance that we had hoped to have. So we want to make sure we're meeting families. But we also know almost all of us up here, we are the family. So we know, what it's like to run to baseball, to the primary school, to the high school, here, there, and everywhere, and maybe try to make dinner, if you're lucky.
All
Yeah.
of our families,
Right.
not just.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, not just the ones that can make everything. Like, there's a whole subset of people that are missing the communications, and, how can we reach them better? How can we feel like the staff, the teachers are maybe more accessible for those questions? I'm not sure what the solutions are, and I'm sorry to bring you the issue, but that was the conversation that we had.
Yep. Very much so. Anybody else?
Anything else? All right. Next, in terms of SMART goals, I'll just read you the SMART goal and talk a little bit about. First SMART goal is by June 2025, all students will have an average student growth percentage of 35 to 65% as defined by STAR in ELA and math. Previously, we had looked at all students meeting or exceeding expectation at or above grade level. And when we had our discussion, we really wanted to look at having a kid have a year's worth of growth in a year based off of where they were at. So, because not all kids grow are going to get sometimes to that point based off of a whole host of factors. So I thank Mrs. Socia, she did a lot of research for me, and STAR defines a year's worth of growth as being between that 35 and 65%. So that's the number we came up with. And really, this does a lot of work in incorporating a lot of what we talked about. You have to make sure kids are in school. You have to make sure standards are aligned. You have to make sure you're teaching the curriculum. You have to make sure that you're communicating with families. You have to make sure you're looking at data. So I'm excited about that first goal, and I'm excited for the end of next week for our STAR data to come out and look at it. Number 2 is at a minimum of 4 times a school year, individual student success plans will be developed for students based on their academic and social emotional needs as assigned through STAR assessment, MCAS results, Panorama survey results, and other formative data. And as I said earlier, we spent a lot of time the past 3-4 years getting out of COVID and focusing in on our at-risk students to mitigate learning loss and gaps. Really want to start moving towards a concerted effort at our kids in the middle and our high-achieving students. So we're going to be writing ISSPs for all students. Principals have already met with staff on it. As part of our discussion, we talked about providing teachers this year release time to do it. Teachers will look at the data, analyze the data, talk about it, and then write those individualized student success plans. One thing that we came up with special area teachers, what's going to happen with them, and one of the things we talked about is if they can't use achievement data, one thing they can always focus in on is SEL and attendance data. So, you know, everyone loves Mr. Smith down in the elementary school and in the primary school. You know, to have a phone call home from Mr. Smith, or to have Mr. Smith grab 4 or 5 kids and say, hey, why aren't you coming to school? That's powerful. Or to have Mr. Smith call home and say, hey, here's what I noticed, some great things happening with your child, but here, I'd love to have them more inside the classroom. Is there anything we can do to help? So that's the whole purpose around the ISSP, but it's really to make sure we can see kids continuing to grow and having teachers have that time and providing them the time to analyze the data and put interventions in place. We're really looking at those interventions being anywhere between 2 and 8 weeks in length, depending on who the child is, what the areas of weaknesses, and how long it takes to remediate them. So that's the second goal.
And then if after those 2 to 8 weeks, then does it become a child find?
It could become a child find situation based off of, again,
A whole host of other.
Yeah, I mean,
If I went out and I broke both my legs, and I couldn't come to school for 4 months,
Yeah.
it would be a different story.
one of the things, I think it's one of the parts of STAR is, talks a lot about telling time, okay? And we all know kids are really good with this, but they're not so great with the analog clocks. I don't know if a kid still isn't able to tell time on an analog clock if it would trigger child find, but for something bigger, it could potentially trigger child find for a student.
Can you?
Identify child find?
No.
Okay. Define child find?
No, I remember when we talked about ISSPs this summer, we had questions about middle and high school and who was in charge of doing those at each school for each student.
Correct. So for the middle school, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, what's going to happen is ELA teachers are going to pair with social studies teachers and work together, the two of them, to do the ELA writing component. Math is going to pair with science together, and then special area teachers will focus in on the SEL and attendance. And I believe something's very similar at the high school.
Okay.
For that piece. Number 3 is by June 2025, the district will identify 5 new strategies for communicating with families that meet the unique needs of our I wrote this wrong. So by June 2025, the district will identify 5 new strategies for communicating with families that meet their unique needs. And this is exactly what we talked about. Thank you for clarifying it a little bit too. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our families, so then we can in turn better help support our students. So we need to look at it differently. Like you said, having the open houses are great. I I was at the primary and the elementary. They were packed. I know I'll be here at the middle and the high school tomorrow. My guess is that the attendance at the high school is probably not going to be what it looked like at the elementary school last week. And that's just normal over the course of time. And the last goal is a district improvement. By June 2025, the district will continue to refine and improve on school safety by meeting with district leaders and the safety committee to review and modify identified issues. You know, we talked a lot about SEL. We talked a lot about having our teachers focus in on SEL and attendance. We talked a lot about identifying and looking at morning meeting and advisory. But we've also done some great things. We have an additional SRO this year. We have 2 SROs. We have Adam Wright and Brett Filoni. Both have been amazing. Adam's been, not that Brett hasn't been awesome, but Adam just kind of dove right in. He's in the cafeteria. He's at recess. He's in the parking lot in the morning. He's in the gym. Sometimes I'm in my office, I look out the window, and he's walking out of the middle school, then I go to the elementary school, he's doing something in a STEM class, and I walk over to the primary school, and he's with Finn in the cafeteria with kids. So it's been awesome to have our 2 school resource officers, awesome to see their cruisers parked out front, both in the front and in the back of schools and moving around. So that's been a great addition. We have the new camera and security system that's coming online that we're still working with our vendor to set up, but again, we're grateful for the town for approving those financial resources for us. Tomorrow, we have our first safety committee meeting, which will go over some things we're going to do for this year around reunification, around planning for different types of drills for the school year. Principals did a good job beginning of the year setting up their MERT teams, which stands for Medical Emergency Response Team. Every building has one. So if something happens and they call for the MERT team, there's someone to greet the EMTs at the door, there's someone to come to the location, there's someone to go to the parking lot. So it's just a response team. So if a child goes down in the classroom, the nurse and the people know who to respond in the classroom, but then there's other people stationed throughout the school who can get the nurse, greet the fire department, greet the EMTs, bring them to the classroom. So we continue to refine that. We have 2 crisis teams in each building to make sure if, again, we need anything with children, we have 2 crisis teams. Hopefully, both are utilized at the same time, but sometimes you utilize your first crisis team, you might want to give them a break and go to your second crisis team if 2 things happen in a day. And we've had in place for a few years now a threat assessment protocol, which just is a protocol we use to determine levels of threat. We did a training with FEMA a few years ago, and they said, I think it was out of Virginia, West Virginia, the one they recommended, and that's the one that we've been using. So it's good that we're using something that's recognized by FEMA as a threat assessment protocol. So those are the 4 goals for the year.
Anybody have any questions? No, we talked about this stuff a lot. The last goal, that doesn't include all the stuff we're doing for staff safety.
Correct. So obviously for staff safety, when you're talking about, we did Alice, again, I didn't put everything down.
No, but I mean, we've implemented some different things for staff-specific safety in the buildings
Correct.
as well, too.
Staff does CPI training. We're switching over to safety care this year, and Greg's going to the training in a couple weeks for that. I don't have my lanyard, but we continue to have lanyards in place for staff.
And for their own personal safety
And for
within
their
the
personal safety as
classrooms.
well, correct. So those are my goals for the year. And I'll post those on the website tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Last week, we had a rich discussion on the waiver process, which I appreciate. Courtney and I went back after the meeting, processed what you said, and kind of tweaked it a little bit. I'm going to have Courtney just real briefly go over. We took a lot of the feedback and actually we came up with a simpler and a more efficient process.
I had an epiphany on Sunday when I came in and was doing forms, and I was like, oh my God, I
And
found
an
something
epiphany
that
by
we could
Courtney is a
use.
good thing. So Courtney, I'll have you explain your epiphany and the process.
So like Paul said, we did have a discussion, kind of went back and forth. So I came in and I was kind of going through, because I wanted the explanation letter, and of course, he read it too. I wanted somebody reading it from you know, not my point of view, but from others. Did some tweaking to it. And then I just I was updating the waiver fee form, because I would update it anyway every year, and I was updating the sharing of information form, because I would update that every year, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, why I even thought of it, because it's really a food service kind of a thing. I don't deal with it. I really don't deal with it. I don't even know why I thought of it, but I'm glad I did.
Because you're brilliant. Run with it.
I don't know about that. So anyway, remember I was saying that the whole thing with the school lunch applications, well, there is another process and a file that is available to us from the state, and it is a direct certification. And what that is if somebody is eligible for SNAP and a bunch of other things that, unfortunately, I didn't grab the thing for the meeting tonight, but the state prepares a file. The people are eligible for state certification, and that gets sent, and we can review that. So even when we were doing the free and reduced applications, sometimes people would know they would put down their number, but even if somebody filled out an application, you would review that file to see if they're eligible. If they're eligible, you don't even need to look at anything further, even when we were looking at the free and reduced applications. So maybe that's why it hit me. I don't know, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I did tweak the whole process and basically said that if you feel that you're eligible for direct certification, or you would just fill out the form. In other words, don't even go into that second thing at all. And when we get the form available, unfortunately, we do not have it yet from the state. It should be coming very soon. There's been some delays on some things from the state. All we have to do is, the couple of parents I did get a phone call from, just, I said, it sounded like from the conversation, maybe they're eligible for that. So I said, just please fill out the waiver form request, and only the sharing of information, because without that sharing of information form, I'm not allowed to look, I'm not allowed to know, nobody's allowed to share that information. In other words, the food service director cannot share that information with me in the process. We also, just to be sure, and I did have Allison contact the state, and just to explain everything, could we do that? And they said, no problem at all, just make sure you have the sharing of information. Well, we already knew that. So I was so happy that was like a last split-second kind of thing. But to be honest with you, that there aren't that many waiver requests that we even receive, or even have in the past. Okay, just so that everybody knows that as well. But so I have just received 4 in. We're just waiting for that upload, but I think that's going to help immensely, because the ones that really need it and they apply, it's going to be a much easier process for them. So, because they already have probably enough, I don't want to say burdens, but enough difficulties.
There's enough things that they're working on right now.
Difficulties, I don't want to call them burdens, but difficulties, and that will make it just so much nicer and easier. So I was very happy with that, so.
I like that it streamlines the process, and the state
Yeah.
already has the information, and it's just
On,
accessing it.
yeah, and for the one, for the population who could
Potentially
needs
benefit
it,
and don't know
needs it
about it.
most.
Yeah.
Or needs it most. Well, most
know,
do
yeah.
know because of the food service. But I mean, it just, because of that whole situation that we had, but that resolves most of that problem.
And it doesn't cost us
And we
anything.
don't really get that many waiver requests. We really don't.
May I,
So-
through the chair, may I ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do families know about this?
But we sent it out, went
They're
out.
aware that if they are automatically, let's say, enrolled.
Yeah, it was in
SNAP
my letter.
benefits- Okay.
Everything was explained in the letter.
Okay.
Because like I said, luckily, before that letter went out, I just, I don't know, somebody was looking out for me to hit me in the head with that,
Okay, I
just,
see. So that letter goes to everybody?
Yes,
So I-
oh, yes. It went-
I put in my newsletter.
Yeah.
I put in my newsletter.
I've been meaning to read that letter.
It's a good one. It'll go on again on Friday, too, with the same information.
And it went to all the schools.
The principals also pushed it out, too, and predominantly this is going to occur at the high school and
Right.
the middle school.
Well, yeah,
And
it's
both
mostly
Rob
the
and
high
Bob
school,
know
really.
that
Yeah.
if a parent calls and says, they can direct them through the process. But
Right, exactly.
sometimes the easiest way to get to A to B is through a straight line. This time, we kind of had to go like this to get there, but we got there, and that's the important thing.
But I
So
was
thank
so
Ms.
happy
Keegan
for that, I really
Keegan for her
was.
epiphany at 3:42 in the morning, a couple Sundays ago.
Yeah, because we had to get that right out, yeah.
And then finally, for my
Yeah.
report, is I'm going to have Dr. Rosenthal come up and speak. So as he walks up, 3 things he's going to touch on. First is a special education procedure manual, something that he worked on with his staff for the better part of last year, something that the department had been lacking for, or didn't have in place for several years. We had our tiered focus monitoring done last year, and then we had the results sent to us this year. I think we had about 2 to 3 meetings with DESI to put together our corrective action plan based off of the findings. So one thing, thank you, one thing Greg and I talked about was, instead of presenting the tiered focus monitoring that had some findings without being able to share what the corrective action plan was, and then coming back a second time could be confusing. So we lumped everything together in one meeting for us to be able to, one, talk about the tiered focus monitoring, the good, and some of our findings, but then also be able to piggy that right back with a, here's what we're doing, and here's what we've already done to fix the identified issues. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Dr. Viera.
Started, can I just ask, so we don't have this down as a first reading?
It's not a policy. It's
But
not an
even though-
official school committee policy.
Okay, so it's, because it's a procedure manual?
It's a procedure manual,
Okay,
yes.
and we checked that with Greg?
Yes.
Not-
No, Greg, with Michael.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an internal procedure manual, and again, with special education, when you go through things will change, like we say something in IPASS, and if you ended up making it an official policy, you needed 3 readings every time the state changed something, every time we change a system, every time we decide to change a form, we
Would never get anything
would never
done.
get anything done.
No,
So-
that's okay, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
we didn't miss anything on.
And this will be posted on the website hopefully tomorrow or the next day for people to have access to it.
Thank you, Dr. Vera.
You're welcome.
That's a great question about the policy and procedure manual, and briefly just want to talk about that. The policies are set forth by Department of Ed and the IDEA, and these are mandates and requirements that we have to follow regardless if we, as a public entity. So those policies are in place. What is the big component of this manual is the procedures in which they occur. And that is where the flexibility, we need to continuously adjust practices to make sure we're in compliance. So as we're moving to Power School, as we have additional staffing, who's going to be responsible for what and how that's going to be meeting the policies that are set forth. Those are the components with it. And it's something that we've discussed all last year, and something that came out of the Seaside review was the district had some turnover over the course of the last few years, and different procedures had been implemented, and the staff had some questions, which one are we going to follow in this sort of thing, and that was part of our meetings. So now we have a document that is going to be living and breathing, and something we can continue to review and adjust practices as needed. As we're going through our Power School training, we've already noticed that there's going to be certain things that we have to adjust. We have an electronic signature system, so there's a lot of things in this. So as we continue to go in the procedures, we will.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Just for anybody that's watching at home or anybody that's new, the Seaside evaluation was,
Sorry, so the Seaside evaluation occurred last March. It was on-site, and was looking at the practices of the special education department over the course of a deep dive, went 5 years, a little bit more actually, where they did interviews, record review, they talked to staff, they talked to families. We did I think the report is still online, so if anyone wants to review it, it's there. But it was something that prior to my start was recommended, and something that we were able to get into place once we found the right people. So that was the initial, and then the state comes out and does their review, which is called the tier focus monitoring. So the cheat sheets that I just handed to you, because there is a 17-page report, kind of outlines everything. The Department of Ed came out on site. The process basically was, we did a self-review and look at our own documents. So that occurred a little over a year ago, last August, when I first started. So looking at different files and components to it, looking at our own system. And then they came back out in April, and what they were looking for in that first 3 sheets is the information that they selected. As you can see, it's about 46 criterion that go through special education processes, ensuring compliance not only to timelines, but also to components of the IEP. So out of the 46, only the ones we were found to be out of compliance were for special education, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is on the fourth page, the partially implementing. What partially implementing refers to is that these are occurring. It's not that there's zero happenings of it. They are occurring. It's the consistency of that, and that there was a few files that were selected by Department of Ed where there were components to this missing, and we're out of compliance to that. And there are 2 civil rights findings, but they're being addressed in our Office of Language Acquisition review, which happened at the same exact time as well. So we had a civil rights review, a special education review. Those are the initials. So SE refers to special education, CR refers to civil rights, but the reason why it's part of this finding, it is associated to students in special education. We are addressing it through our Office of Language Acquisition findings, the OLA it's called. So that's going to be a separate component to this. So if you look on the next page, and I wanted to kind of chunk it together. We're looking at a few buckets here that we really need to implement and make sure we're consistent with. Again, this is a partial finding, meaning they are occurring in pockets. We just have to kind of tighten up our processes and how this is occurring. The first big bucket is evaluations. We want to make sure that being done in a timely manner. We want to make sure it's being documented as to the district's effort to evaluate. We want to make sure that we're meeting the 45 school day component to it, but also the 3-year reeval that is happening within the 3 years, if not earlier. The second bucket is IEPs being sent out. We want to make sure that it happens in a timely manner. And this is in 2 components. One, after a meeting, we have a set number of days to get this out to ensure the parents have an opportunity to review the document and make any requests to changes or meeting or whatever it might be, or they can accept or partially reject or fully reject the IEP. We want to make sure that those are getting out in a timely manner. One of our root cause analysis for this was the district trying to build a relationship with families and potentially delaying the IEP being sent out as their discussion continues around certain components of the IEP. We're now moving forward with more of a process that we're going to make the proposal so we're in a timely manner. And if there are questions, we're happy to meet with you, of course. We just want to make sure we're in compliance with our timely IEPs. One of the other big buckets was our progress reports. So when we did the root cause analysis and a deep dive into this, it wasn't that progress reports weren't being completed. It was more so the process and procedure of ensuring that they were put into the hard copy file. A lot of them were being emailed to parents directly from the liaisons or from the coordinators, and wasn't necessarily getting into the hard copy file. So we want to tighten up that process, making sure that those documents are in their file at all times. Age of majority. That is when we talk about students who are turning 17, they get to have a discussion about being their own IEP rights and consent to certain things, or they can identify others that might want to do that. And then at 18, they get to make that decision. We are ensuring there's a procedure around this, that this occurs, so that the team doesn't miss that. Part of it is the new IEP has check boxes that has to be completed at team meetings. If not, the IEP cannot be finalized. It's one good thing about Power School that we're doing. And also ensuring that that sign-off sheet is coming with the IEP when we put it into the folders and making sure that the paper copy is there. So we're just tying up those procedures. And again, I addressed a little bit of the other two civil rights, which is going to occur within our Office of Language Acquisition CAP, Corrective Action Plan, and ensuring that students have full access to both special education as well as EL services, and documenting that, as well as ensuring that there are documentation for translation to ensure that the home first language is offered, whether it's for a meeting or for documents translation. Not that it wasn't occurring, we just didn't have a process and procedure to ensure we're identifying that. So there's a lot of information here, and I don't want to go too far into the deep details of it. There's a lot to look over. This is pretty much an overview of what the next year is going to be like.
I want to, thank Dr. Rosenthal for doing this. I also want to thank the Department of Education as being a great partner in this. Sentences that I probably couldn't use 15 years ago between schools and the Department of Education, but our liaison, Michelle, that worked with us, was fantastic. She met with us after this was done, and we presented our corrective action plan. Well, I'm going to have Dr. Rosenthal just dive a little bit deeper into that for those watching from home and for the committee. But we went through each of our, I think it was 8 areas, and talked about our root cause analysis and what the corrective action plan we put in place for each was. And she said, this is great, there aren't any mistakes, this works. Thank you for your time and your effort. So the department's pleased with what we've put together as a corrective action plan. So Greg, just touching briefly, whether it's the clerk, the policy procedure manual, the checklist, some internal things that we've already put in place, starting as far back as last year, to ensure that, these findings don't go on.
Yes, of course. So we've, as Dr. Vera just mentioned, we've already started a process towards this. We presented last year a clerk position to oversight a lot of the compliance, ensuring that paperwork. My assistant Lois is wonderful, and it was needed to help support her as well, because between doing contracts, doing purchase orders, the business office side, doing out-of-district side, being a touch point for families, and then also the processes of the paperwork. It was a lot, and we wanted to add a little extra support there to ensure that occurred. And so she's been wonderful. She's actually helped our new clerk with a lot of the process, training them, just what is required in terms of timelines, and has been a great team player. And also helping our new coordinator, Ms. Buck, be kind of incorporated into the process and get to understand certain things that work here in Douglas. Because each district has their own kind of policy and procedures towards things. So some of the corrective actions was the clerk, the policy and procedure manual. Last year, we did a deep dive into what was working. We've noticed that some pockets were doing things differently than other pockets, so we want to kind of make it a streamline for everyone. So the policy and procedure manuals for that. We will be doing continuous training over the course of this year. We did a small scratch at the surface for PD. We kind of did a cheat sheet for the special education staff on what is their responsibility. We're going to go further deep dive into that. October 11th, the Friday before Columbus Day, we will have significant amount of time with the staff to do more of the training, just around Power School, IEPs, responsibilities, roles, that sort of thing. So between that and tighten up the documentation component, because a lot of this is happening and we're not documenting it. And what is the appropriate paperwork to do that? Putting it into team meeting notes, putting putting things in writing through email and that sort of thing. So that way it can go into the hard file, and we have documentation instead of, when next time Department of Ed comes out and asks for this type of documentation and it's not there. It's really the procedure around getting the paperwork in the correct places.
Does anybody have any questions?
Not at this time.
I intimately, in my own way, know what happens with this whole process. My biggest concern as a mom is how are you going to be able to know on the go that this stuff is actually working? Because if you're up here, not that you're up here, but how are you going to know that boots on the ground stuff is actually happening? Like, what are our checks and balances to ensure that these things are happening?
So that is a great question. And one of the instruments that we're going to use is a compliance checklist that is being overseen by the clerk position. So ensuring IEP dates are occurring, ensuring evaluation dates are occurring. We're going to be reviewing that on a weekly basis at a coordinator meeting where the special ed department meets for 2.5 hours. The clerk, my assistant, the two coordinators, and myself go over this spreadsheet. And as things come up, the question is going to be, are these occurring? If they're not occurring, I need a reason why and documentation for that. So the clerk's position is going to be really essential for that compliance component and updating that spreadsheet on a daily basis.
And that procedure is somewhere if that clerk doesn't come back tomorrow for whatever reason,
Yes.
all of this kind of institutional knowledge is put somewhere in writing,
Correct. And
on the policy and procedure manual.
Yes.
But, it's somewhere.
yes.
The other thing that was implemented this year, or the process of being implemented, I might get some of it wrong, is they've created a checklist for the folder that goes with each team meeting, whether it's for a
We used to
three-year.
have that.
Yeah, a 3-year reeval, an initial, an annual, a reconvened, and it's about 3 pages long. So it's one stapled to the front of the thing to go through. And is the form in the file? Did the parents sign off? And that's another visual reminder, another checks and balance to make sure that it's on there. And then obviously when the folder when the meeting ends between the clerk, the coordinator, and Dr. Rosenthal, when it says checked off that the age of majority form was signed off by the parent, you can go to the file and actually see if it's in there. And if it's
Checked
not.
off and initialed by the person that
Correct.
actually did it.
And Greg will speak a little bit more to the process, but I know one thing we discussed was really having that checklist available for all of our types of meetings. So you could have, even like when I was over at Courtney's office today, and I don't know if you don't know what I saw this, but they were going over tuition reimbursement for teachers.
It's funny, I was just thinking about that when they were talking about that.
Yeah. And she
we
had
have that for that,
And she
yeah.
has a little piece of paper with a checklist that says, here are the 6 things that you need. So again,
Yeah.
people do that. Obviously, the 3 pages is a lot more than the 6 bullets that Courtney had. But again, it's important for us to have that checklist between Greg, the coordinator, the liaison, the clerk.
Well, and I think it's important when you go into a meeting as the person that's sharing the meeting too, to have everything you need,
At the
be
meeting.
ready to go.
Correct.
So Power School, as we're doing the deep dive into Power School, you have to check off these boxes if you're going to continue on in the document. So the checklist that we're putting together, the paper checklist, is going to be a lot of what the clerk is going to be looking at. And then for myself, it's going to be the electronic version.
I invited her.
I just wanted to add too, when you were asking at what level for Greg's component and how it's going, when we're having those weekly meetings, then we have department meetings as coordinators. And we're touching upon these in our department meetings with the special education teachers, with the related service providers. So we're constantly having these conversations. We're talking about what we're doing so that it's starting up here and it's also trickling down. Having the clerk has been great. She's hit the ground running and she's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that point because I didn't want you to think it stopped at the coordinator level. The compliance has been a big thing since I started here. I've been living and breathing it. And so I just wanted to make that point too and say that. So thanks
Oh,
for
you get to
letting me
stay
come
with
out.
me now.
Oh, I get to stay. Great. Lovely.
As I mentioned, she's hit the ground running. She's a veteran, so absolutely.
No, I appreciate that. I think get a little protective of our staff. They've been through a lot. They've had a lot of changes. They've had a lot of policies. We had blue notes, we had green notes, we had purple notes. They need consistency, and they need support.
I agree.
Couldn't agree more.
Any other questions?
No, but I do want to say this it looks like an incredible amount of work that's been ongoing and.
A huge undertaking.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, boy. So, and I'm not as intimately aware, like, I'm pretty much like, I don't know anything about anything. So super impressive, and thank you. I can't wait to hear how it all goes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything else?
That's it for my report for tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. So the accounts payable report.
Okay. So this is, I reviewed a few warrants. Warrant number 07SCH25 with the date of August 15th, 2024. There were 7 batches for a grand total of $87,918.21. I found nothing out of the ordinary or concerning. It all looked groovy. And then, let's see, I also reviewed warrant 09SC H25 with a date of August 29th, 2024. There were 10 batches for a grand total of $161,274.81. Again, nothing out of the ordinary, all was good.
Do you have that one? I don't have that one.
It was hidden in there.
Yes, hidden?
Okay.
I'll look a little closer.
Anybody want to look, see?
Yeah, it's hard, we had a hard time finding it too, because it's only a couple
had
of
a lo-
pages.
yeah, and we had a lot of
It's only 2
paper
pages,
today.
you know, yeah.
It's right before the minutes and after Greg's.
Oh, okay. That's it.
I'll look at this one.
Got it, sorry.
Are you comfortable with us moving?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just couldn't find the right thing to be looking at.
No, we gotta do it. Alrighty, and then that's the DES after-school program fee increase.
Let's do minutes first.
Oh, minutes, the
Oh.
meeting minutes.
See, can't take me anywhere. All right. The school committee meeting minutes from September 4th.
So I do have a change.
Yes.
That meeting was in person, if I recall.
That is correct.
So it says I joined at 6:43. I got here again, if I'm accurate, like 1 minute before the start.
You did.
So-
6:29.
It was in person.
So I would just edit that.
Okay.
It was in person. The one in August was Zoom.
Oh, the August.
Yeah, August was Zoom.
Okay.
Oh, wow, yeah, wow. It's funny how time, yeah. All right.
So if no one has any other questions or updates, I'm looking for a motion to approve it as amended.
I'll make that motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? All right. And now, Mr. Hayes.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna
Hello
actually
again.
start.
Courtney, I think I'd
Yeah.
defer to you.
Yeah, I was going
Thank you.
to start off on this one. Okay. So this is on the FY 2025 DES after-school enrichment program fees, and some of this will be a little bit of a repeat of the last time, but the current per fee student, fee per student, oh, it's getting late, for the elementary school after-school program is $25 per student per class. The fee was reduced for the 23-24 school year from $50 per class to $25 per class, as we had accrued a balance in the revolving fund. At the time of this reduction, we stated that we would review the balance as of June 30th, 2024, to see if we needed to increase the fee to sustain the program. At the time of the fee reduction, at the time we did that, the June 30th, 2023 fund balance was $19,997.81. As of June 30th, 2024, the fund balance in the DES after-school program revolving fund is $5,176.21. After the last meeting, I went back and we took quite a bit of time reviewing and trying to get the data that you asked for and all that. After reviewing the last 3 years of the program, it was found that in FY23, $9,452 in stipends was charged to the general fund, not the revolving fund. So that's why we had, part of the reason we had such a large balance. That's one thing there. So the balance would have been $10,545.81, not the $19,997.81. So therefore, in order to sustain the after-school program, we are still recommending going back to the original fee amount of $50 per student per class, which is the amount that we had in place since the inception of the program. We never had any complaints, never had any problems whatsoever. Each class session is for 8 weeks, and classes run for 1 hour each, which amounts, even at the $50, to only $6.25 a class. Yeah, we were kind of, with all the turnover in my office, I mean, unfortunately, yep, that happened. So, and so we would have still have had, at that time, it would have been $10,545.81, but still, it was that almost $20,000 that kind of brought us, because you're not allowed, like I said at the last meeting, you're not allowed to build up it's a term I always use, a war chest and revolving funds. Because at some point, and we did have to do this years back, from an account that, before I came, oh my God, it accrued money for years and years and years. So Jean and I finally resolved it, and we just, we sent the money back to the town. It was for an account that just sat there for many, many years. It just kept building up and building up. So that would be our recommendation, that we do bring the fee back to the $50, which it was the fee all along for that time, since we inception of the program. But before we move on, I do want to let you know that I did provide to you in the following pages. I do have, the next one is the kind of financials for FY '22, '23, and '24. And I do make a note on that for FY '23. And again, I'm reiterating what I just stated with regard to that.
So,
And then,
sorry, the
no
question
problem.
down here is that we thought at the last meeting, we did want you to go and find these numbers, so thank you for that. But I think what we wanted to look at was, I know, I don't want to speak for Heather, although it's in the minutes, so I'm going to speak for Heather.
I did provide, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay, nope, go ahead.
3 pages is what you guys asked for. We have the 3 years for each session, the class and the number of student participation. For each one of the sessions for each year, that's the next 3 pages. And one of the things I want to make sure that I bring up to you as well is that this is an after-school program, so it only runs and can run only if we have staff interested in doing a class, okay, and have enough numbers of participation. And we do have at least one of the ones that used to do it regularly every single night is no longer with the district. So we don't know yet, how many people are going to have. But that's it's a real balancing act, because if you don't have, there could be students that may want to do it, and parents that may be allowed to do it or able to do it, or whatever the case may be. We do not have enough staff members. Then you have another issue where you cannot accommodate those students, or you cannot have the program at all. So it's a real balancing act. I want to make sure I brought that up, which I did not, I had the opportunity to bring that up last time. But, it is a key point that I wanted to make sure that I stated that as well.
So, I mean, I realized that the fee once was $50 and it went down to $25. I'm still not in favor of doubling it with all the additional expenses that families face right now and inflation and everything else. I'm not in favor of doubling it to $50.
So I respectfully disagree. I think that.
I love a respectful disagreement.
So let me ask this question. Would this be eligible for fee waivers?
Oh, all fees are eligible for fee waivers.
So
Like
if
I
a
said, we don't get,
family
exactly.
Couldn't afford this.
Right.
If it was,
They can
then
apply.
They could apply for a fee waiver, or some may automatically be eligible because they're already enrolled in certain benefits.
Oh, well, nothing's automatic. No. You still have to apply for the fee
Got it,
waiver
okay.
and share and fill out the
Okay.
sharing of information.
Okay, so that's a little
so that we
confusing.
could do that.
So people need to definitely know about the fee waivers.
Oh, no, I did state that earlier.
I'm
about
not
the-
following
yeah.
along. So, which is apparent to the viewers, I'm sure. They're like, who is that girl? So this girl is confused. So in order, families can access the fee waiver where? Did everybody get it at home?
We did send it out, yeah, we did, when we, yeah. So
No, I don't know.
It went out,
Right.
it went out in newsletters, it went out through
Yeah.
the principals
Yeah.
to families,
Yeah.
and they also know their own
Sure,
students as well,
sure.
and guidance does as well. So all of that went out. So again, when I was saying earlier, we do have that, as long as they fill out the fee waiver
Mm-hmm.
request form, which you always have to have that. We absolutely have to have that. Like when the auditors come in, you have to have some, some people have to apply for a waiver of a fee.
Could the
Yeah.
fee waiver, is it available online? Like on the website? Like, hey, here's the fee waiver, because people's circumstances change. So my thought is that, and I know that we're going back, but this does apply to this, because
yep.
I think, this is me, I'm like, where's the fee waiver, and I want to double the price. But I think it needs to be, everyone just got a ton of paperwork, which we've all
Yeah.
agreed, right? Like,
Yep.
it's
Oh,
a
God,
lot.
especially in the beginning of the year.
And
No,
I
that's an
can't even
excellent
set an email
idea.
account. Like,
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty tech savvy, and I'm having issues with it, so,
Yeah.
never mind everything else. So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'll just go online and find it. And I think that would be.
So if it's not online, we'll
That's
pass it
an
on.
excellent,
I think
yeah.
that would be great.
I actually should have thought of that already. I
Maybe I already
apologize.
did. It might be already online.
Yeah, maybe it actually is in the individual school areas. It could be, because I don't have anything to do with that, but
Well,
excellent idea.
Right,
Yeah.
and maybe like a blast, like, hey, guys, things change, check out the fee waiver. We want everyone to access that. And knowing that that's out there, I think, is really important. But that aside, and as a possibility for families, I think doubling it, I think we're not going to be able to offer it if we don't double it. That's what it sounds like to me.
So this is what I thought we had come out of the last meeting with. That's why we pulled the meeting
Yeah.
minutes, which is not in there, but in my head, this is where we left the conversation. I thought the question was, if we reduced it for this year to $40 for this year so that it does not double, what does that look like in the fund, and does that cover it for the year? And then we can have this discussion again next year at $50. Am I crazy? Is that the conversation? Okay.
Well, I remember, I believe, I'm the one that said, well, you could do 40 if you wanted to, but then they said no, because it wasn't any,
Oh, I think
any
Heather didn't
interest
like the
in.
40.
Yeah,
think we were
right.
trying
I'm
not
the
to
one who
just
brought
put
up
a
the
random
40, and
dollar.
then it was, I'm not really interested in the 40, it was, we really want to keep it even lower, yeah.
Which I'm not opposed to.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't want to double it. I think that's way too much. Go to the grocery store, $25 won't get you much, but it'll still get you more food on the table right now. So I will vote to increase it, but I cannot vote to double it this year.
Now, again, I guess I'll say what I said the last meeting, if you have an appetite for $40, we could certainly do $40 this year, and then we can review it again to see. I mean, I thought that was, when I brought it up, at the last meeting, I thought that was something reasonable, because I could tell that, but I don't want to lose the whole
The
program.
program, yeah. Beth, you
Okay.
haven't said anything down there?
No, okay, I'm looking at the numbers and how much they've increased, and they've increased with the lower dollar amount, which is what concerns me. Because I want to make sure, and I also know as a mom, like, I think we all know, and this isn't in a disrespectful way in any way, shape, or form, but to actually qualify for that fee waiver, that doesn't meet a good portion of the families in the community. And so that's my concern, there's that gap of the people that make too much for help, but they don't make enough to survive. And I'm worried about that group of people.
Yeah, that they'll miss out on this.
I know it feels like a small amount, 25 to 50, it's only $25, but for some families, that is a big amount.
And especially if they want to participate in each sessions, because I know once the kids do a first session, they get excited about it, then they want to do the other session. So now we're really talking about $150 for the whole year.
If someone could fact check my math real quick.
Oh,
Okay, sorry.
We just want to be
Yeah, no, I want to hear the math, because I
just
was
wanna-
going to do the math too.
Yeah, I just want to be careful too that, Ken, do you have any idea of the number of staff that may be interested in doing this?
Right now, we're still recruiting. I don't know how many we have yet to go.
Okay, all right.
So, last year, we had 706 students who participated in the after-school enrichment program. If I multiply that by $40, I come to 28,240. If you look at Ms. Keegan's sheet for our expenditures for 2024, our expenditures were $33,000. So if you lowered it to $30 to $40, we'd be running in the red for that.
Right, in a
If
deficit.
you-
No, we do have a carryover
We
balance.
do have a carryover,
Yes,
but just
yeah.
straight
But
expenditures,
just
money
looking
in,
at-
money
right,
out.
Revenue covering expenditures, right.
If you take this 706 and multiply it by 50, you come to 35,308, if I can read my handwriting correctly.
Sorry, 380.
35,308.
Okay, and that was at 50.
And we had an expenditure last year, again, all things being equal, of $33,000. So again, we'd come out in the black for that. So if everything's straight apples to apples, and yes, we do have a fund carryover balance of
Not much, but.
not much.
Yeah.
Lowest that we've had, but
you
yeah.
could dive into, but based off of the 706 students at $40 a student, based off of the courses that we ran last year, our expenses, we wouldn't be bringing in enough to cover the overhead of the program.
And again, if that amount wasn't charged to general, we would be in the red, actually.
Can I just mention something? So that all 3 years, it's been an average of 16 students per class. So even last year, there were more courses offered, but still it averaged 16 per course. So that's one thing, and just so you know, with that, typically that exceeds, from what I understand, the typical, like, one instructor, so then it bumps up to 2, so then your cost gets up to $768 just for the 2 instructors. It doesn't include the coordinator, the cost of materials, things
And
like
there were a
that.
number
I'll be
of-
honest, when I came in here, it was $25, like the greatest value I've ever heard in the history of the world. And, but even to me, like, $50 seemed like a reasonable deal, you know what I mean? But anyway, though, so whatever we decide upon, but I just wanted to mention this math, because again, if you're at that number of 16, you're looking at 2 instructors, which at 16 at 50 is 800, so you're just over just the cost of the instructors.
And if you go back to 2002 FY22, if you take the 504 students and multiply that by $40, it's $20,160, and our expenditures that year were a hair over $22,000. So we'd be running in the red, again, straight apples to apples.
What about the classes that charge the fee for materials? Because some of those classes, am I crazy, right?
No,
Does
they
it-
do.
It's just
They
a
do.
Right,
small
so-
dollar amount, right, they divide
Right,
it
so it's
out.
like 10
They
it's
come
like
up with
10
like
an
five,
extra 10.
6, or
Yeah,
10,
yeah.
yes, yep. Only if they need them, and it goes by what they actually need for that particular class.
I guess
But
I was
mean-
thinking, can we ask the instructors if maybe we carry over some of the cost depending on what one you're taking, so that the kids who maybe need like a closer to, I don't know, $35, $40 could participate, but then whatever it is, Woodcrafts charges an extra $10 to cover some of these expenses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so we at least cover more of the expenses?
I'm just thinking, and very out of the box and would not help us tonight, but what grants are there out there for after-school programming? Like, I know Uxbridge has, I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but all-day learning kind of grants. Like, can we look at getting some grant funding like that into the district to help do these programs?
Well, wouldn't that be, I'm not sure, but I believe those are really academic type, after-school help, not like these.
I think they're very clubby, from what I see, them
Do
doing with
keyboarding
it,
after school?
you know?
Agreed, but
I-
I don't know, yeah.
could make an argument that crafts are academic and Legos.
All of this.
I mean, all
Yeah.
of this is
Yeah.
life skills, this is social emotional skills.
We could look, like, we looked into, and a lot of it too is the way the grants are written. We looked
Right,
at a
yeah.
dyslexia grant
Yeah.
that, to send staff to professional development, but we didn't hit the criteria based off of our community demographics to apply.
We didn't.
We did not.
That's awful.
So a lot of it is, yes, there are grants out there, but a lot of times and I don't know what grant that Uxbridge received. It's targeting a certain population, whether you've hit a certain number of
Typically,
kids,
that's what it
high
is,
needs, whether
targeted.
you have an issue with chronic, whatever it is. But again, it's not going to help us for this year. And a lot of times those grants are for 1 year only or 2 years, so then you're back at the table in 2 or 3 years. The other thing too, just you want to try to avoid for families is the $50 to $25 to $40, down to $35, back up to $50, because then people say,
What are you doing?
what are you doing?
What happens if, so say we keep it low and this year, and this still goes forward, and we end up in the red? What then?
It's subsidized by us, basically.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, it
Comes
would
out
end
of
up being,
another
it would have to
bucket.
be coming out. But the other thing that I'm concerned about, back to, is if we make it more towards, free, you have so many people, in it, we won't be able to do it, we won't have the people to do it,
Could we put limits on, though,
.
different, like 20
Enrollment.
spots,
Right, I was gonna say, you already capped the spots though, because you'll get the notice that you're filled up.
First choice, second choice.
Yeah,
third
yeah.
choice. Yeah.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, we're in the red next year. What do we do then? Do we not offer it?
Well, I guess, I mean.
Is that a discussion that we have?
If it runs in the, if we run in the red, then it would have to come out of another bucket, whether school choice or.
Yep.
Well, you can't, right, you can't, well, you
You can't run
can't be
the-
in the red, but if it was running in the
Then it
red, I
costs-
would have to charge, well, for instance.
Who's gonna get paid?
You
Like,
would
I
have
get
to
that.
figure out where it comes.
For instance, the middle school, after COVID, the middle school was trying to get the after-school program going. There wasn't much interest, but, we made a decision, that we wanted to try, because particularly right after COVID. It was very important, kids being together and all that stuff. You try and try and try, but you can't make kids want to come, and you can't make staff want to do it. So there are some compelling reasons under circumstances, I feel, to try to get a program going, but to continually run it, where it may end up where I just don't want to have the whole program not be able to be done, because there's so many, say we're not concerned about how it's going to get paid, okay? Say you pay it out of general fund, as somebody mentioned at the last meeting. You still have to have the staff willing to do it. And if you're putting limits on it, it would be so many more probably, because look at the difference here. And that's because, and we had to have more, the cost went way up because you had to have 2 instructors, in a class. I just don't know.
What about like $35, but additional fees where there's, if
The
you're
flag
playing
thing?
flag football, we've got the flags in gym, go in the gym, you're good to go, there's no additional cost.
Right.
But if you're doing woodworking and sweet treats and there's,
That's what, yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
what-
there's
yeah,
supplies,
yeah.
then it's $35 plus a $15 fee, so we can get to that $50. And then that way, if I'm a family that can afford $35, then I pick that course, but if I'm a family that can't afford sweet treats, then I have that option.
And don't they already let them know how much, I believe they already do
It's-
that.
it says
And they-
it
they
when it
don't-
comes home.
And it's not like just a number, they actually do see what the supplies are that they need, and they divvy it up. So it might be $6 or $5, or it changes, that's my understanding.
Meg, to your point, a lot of school
Yeah.
districts for user fees, they tier, again, unfortunately, we don't have that issue here, but for football and for ice hockey, for user fees, those user fees sometimes are a lot higher than, for instance, cross-country. Cross-country, you get a
Right.
penny,
Oh, yeah.
you run,
You go.
you have a starter and a timekeeper and a coach. You're looking at ice hockey. Ice hockey, a sheet of ice, back when I was doing it, was $300 for a sheet of ice for an hour of practice time. You're practicing 5 days a week, that's $1,500, which is a lot more money than maintaining your cross-country course. So some schools tier their user fees, especially around football and around ice hockey,
Yeah, the real
for that reason. So the tiered approach is not a,
Yeah, I don't think it's unheard of, and I think it still gives kids an opportunity.
I think it's families an option.
Right.
Is it feasible for the people that are running the program to come up with something like that? I mean,
They already do.
So, okay, because my kid's new to the elementary
Yeah, so
school,
when you get the sheet home, it will tell you like additional $6 or whatever for sweet
Right.
treats. So if we have to look at those fees a little more closely and make sure we're covering more expenses, I would much rather tier it like that and make sure, especially for this, I feel like the kids who don't participate in athletics or the kids who need some of that extra time at school among their peers, I want to make sure that this is affordable to families, especially once we get into, what if you have 2 kids at the elementary school? And now we're talking, it's such a big jump from last year, and I know Heather felt so strongly about it, so I really don't want to.
I just also look at going from 535 to 706 participants.
Yep.
I want to reach as many students as possible, and if we do that by making it less money, and then we subsidize it
Somewhere else?
because we don't quite, pull in what we need, I would prefer to do that.
So a tiered approach?
I don't know, they haven't made a recommendation yet. They need to make a recommendation and vote.
Well, could I hear what you think about a tiered approach?
Tiered approach sounds great, like, we could do that, or we could have a base, like a base fee, and then sort of vary by additional costs based on what's happening, right? I mean, so either the tiered approach, or we basically just see what costs are associated with the program, and there's an additional upgrade fee for that. So either way, seems like it would work.
I just like the idea that there's some basic ones that are just at that 25, so that we can reach as many,
Could be 20 kids running around out in the
Absolutely.
field, and there's no right?
but still having fun,
But
and
they're
still
together.
engaged.
Only to the classes it needs to, yeah, perfect, yeah.
So in terms of a motion, I guess we would I would need somebody to move to approve, and you can.
Well, what are we trying to approve? Are we trying to approve a certain dollar amount? Are we saying 35 with additional fees as needed? Is that what the motion is?
Or plus, because it wouldn't be, I don't know if I'd want to call it a fee, because a fee is a fee is a fee, but maybe in the addition, because what they, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are we still?
Additional
are we-
material
Right,
versus
cost of
cost.
material, and I don't even know, we could definitely add that, but I wouldn't call it a fee, because then we'll get confused, it'd be two different fees.
Right.
Material
That's
expense?
only, yeah, material,
Cost?
Material costs.
for costs in classes that need supplies.
To try to
something like
simplify this,
that.
have-
Because they don't all
Has
do
the
that.
norm been
Yeah.
that,
It's only some of them.
has the norm always been the $50, and then for certain classes, there's an additional $10 associated with it?
Yeah, not, it's like we've been saying, it depends on the class.
Correct.
Like Sweet Tweets, whatever the cost is of the materials they actually need, they divide that, say it's
Send in the check for extra.
$125,
Yeah.
they divide it by the students that are in the class. So it might be
So if my kid wants to do
$6.25.
woodworking, I've always had to send in the extra $6 or whatever it is.
So do we need to
Yeah.
muddy the motion by adding that, since that's been the practice? for-
Yeah, I don't know that
If
we.
that's the practice, I feel
35.
like we
Need to
don't
do
need to
that.
muddy that motion. We
Correct.
just need to come to our fee. and
The
an agreement on our
$35.
fee and vote on
That's what the
it.
committee chooses.
I
Yep.
think, just to go back to your staff, to really like make sure that we're covering, like we said, if they're just running around in the gym, we're good, but any instructors that need supplies, let's make sure that that cost is incorporated
Sure.
and being collected, I guess.
Okay.
So are we saying 35?
Yep, I could get behind 35.
Okay.
You okay with 35?
I'm probably going to say no.
Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to move to improve the increase in I can't say DESI, the DES after-school enrichment program fee from 35 per student per class
From 25.
From 25.
To 35.
to 35 with potential for additional material fees as needed.
If you want to put plus.
So moved.
Additional supplies, cost as
Plus
needed.
additional supplies cost as needed. Good luck writing that, Lauren.
We'll get it.
Motion so moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone abstain?
Nay.
Yes, thank you. But I do want to say why I'm saying no. Not that I don't support the program. This sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds, because I'm new. My kiddo's just reaching that age. I still think $50 is a bargain, and I know that that's hard for some people. But I still think $50 at $6.25 per class for an hour for 8 weeks is still a steal, and I think it's great that the district is offering this. So I look forward to its success at $35, and I hope that we meet again and everyone's like, Julia, you were wrong. So,
And if
good luck.
not, we'll come back to the
Absolutely.
table and we'll change it.
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Thank you guys for the discussion.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's
No,
good.
no problem.
Lengthy.
Thank you very much.
Nay, God, I'm tired.
All right, Mr. O'Brien.
How are you today?
I think this is my first time.
So we are requesting permission for out-of-state travel for a cross-country meet in Rhode Island. We've gone the past few years, it's very successful. We have 2 brand-new coaches this year after our team of coaches that for 10 years and passed the baton. The good news is both coaches work within the building. One is our 7th grade science teacher, Sam Copeland, and one is a new guidance counselor, Heather Antanavica. They wanted to meet yesterday at Sutton. It was a tri-meet. It really brings a different mix of students together that normally would not hang out together. And that's really nice to see. It gives the kids a chance to build those relationships. And thinking back to my sporting days, I forget a lot of the scores, and I'm probably thinking that I did much better than was the reality. But I remember the bus rides the most, and the smell of the muscle balm that you would put on and tapping it and this, that, good times. But we do need permission for out-of-state travel for the Rhode Island trip. It's been very successful in the past.
Does anybody have any questions?
I move to approve permission for the DMS cross-country team to be allowed to travel to Rhode Island for the Ocean State Invitational on Friday, September 27th, 2024.
Motion made by Teresa, second by?
Meg.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Anyone abstain?
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. We have a policy update.
Greg, a second reading? Yeah.
He's just like coming up to talk to us.
So for the last meeting, you asked me to check in about the pronouns. So I reviewed the document, for the life of me, I couldn't find a pronoun in there. And so I contacted Michael Joyce, who wrote it, and we did a double check on everything. So the concern around using they or them, underneath the new policy, he couldn't find one.
I see male or female.
Under the new proposed one?
Is this the first one?
AC non-discrimination?
It's,
I see sexual, okay, non-discrimination.
yep. ACAB.
Nope.
Sexual harassment.
Non-discrimination.
That's the one we're getting rid of.
Yes.
Oh,
They're combining all new.
never mind. Thank you. I'm talking now.
So,
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it was a
was
good
good catch.
It was really good.
Yeah.
For us to go
It's
through.
hard to- yeah.
but Greg thought he was going
Does
crazy.
get
He
confusing.
I ran a search, I ran a search again, I thought I spelled he, her wrong, let me double check the search. And Michael Joyce looked at it, so, like, I think
really-
Beth was looking at the wrong
Yep.
document.
Yep, that would be accurate. I'm extremely sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. It was a good exercise, because,
Happens to all
It
of
would
us.
have been
Beth, there's
easier if there
nothing
were
to-
pronouns, right? Probably would have been less
like,
time.
simple.
I just don't want a discrimination
No,
policy.
absolutely. Exactly.
So I apologize.
Exactly.
Does anybody have any questions on it, other than the fact that I read the wrong one? No. All right. Okay, Dr.
One more reading.
All right, thank you.
All right. This is you, ma'am.
Moving on, okay. Okay, I don't have any transfers and reclassifications this evening, I didn't get to them. The next thing on the agenda, I just want to inform the school committee, we found this out very recently, we had a claim, and someone from the insurance company that was a new person, I thought they were wrong, they told us that the deductible was now $25,000 per claim.
Did it jump because of
So-
that, or just in
so-
general? That's a
So anyway, so I thought, well, it's always been 2,500. I haven't received any notification from the town, no communication, nothing whatsoever. So I thought it was wrong. But it is correct. No explanation. But anyway, so if we had 4, it would be $10,000 before. And now if we have 4, it is $100,000 per year.
Mary and Joseph.
So that is, I did want to bring that to your attention, because now, as I am doing the budget, obviously I need to have that in the back of my mind, because if anything happens, and also the recent situation that we had at the middle school, I did find out also that for mold situations, because especially this past summer with the heat and humidity that we had, that has been $25,000 is the thing. So we had to pay that whole entire bill. It was only a couple of $100s over. We're not going to go through, So, it was a couple of learning experiences there. So it's something that we do need to keep in the back of our mind, because things happen. You have more, hurricanes now, there's more tornadoes now. The winds, I'm sure we've all noticed, the winds when you have rain, it's not just, we don't have rain showers anymore. We don't even use that term anymore. It's torrential downpours or drought, and nothing in between. So it's damage either way to whatever, but.
Who's in charge of our insurance policy?
It's a town.
It's the town.
Yeah, it's Maya, through Maya, they use
And will
Maya.
they shop around at some point?
We can't
Don't know.
answer
Don't
any
know. Okay.
questions regarding what they're doing with the,
Okay.
with the insurance, but anyway, I want to make you aware, because obviously, as I'm preparing the budget, or thinking about, what things, potential, financial liabilities, I'm probably going to be looking at the weather, thinking, oh my God, please go with the storm, go someplace else, because that's a reality. That's a new reality for
quick conversation
us.
I had with a town administrator, he mentioned that in order to keep premiums and costs where they were at, we had to raise the deductible from $2,500 to $25,000.
Oh, see, I didn't know, okay,
I
maybe,
get, I
okay.
get it, it just.
'Cause we didn't get any
We,
notification.
but I've not seen anything in writing. I don't
No,
have
we got
anything-
no notification at all. We found out the hard way with a
I
claim.
can't help but compare this to what we were just discussing. That we were fighting over a
No, I know.
$5 to $50 increase, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
is awful,
Right,
because.
yes.
It's $100,000.
So it almost makes you wonder, do you even make the claim?
$90,000 difference between,
Not to make the claim. They don't want you to make the claim.
Sure. But the fact is, we have to be able to open our doors, for school. If something happens and we have to address it, then it really does, obviously, then you have to do it. Things have to get done, but I know that I will be having to come up with $25,000, no matter what happens. Or we're paying anything from the Delta. The 2,500, you know what I mean? We were always paying the 2,500, but now it's that additional amount. 2,500 is a lot easier to find.
So you're saying the town changed something within the insurance, and that's what made the bump?
We know very little, because we haven't received anything in writing. So when we had the issue, Courtney came running into the office saying, oh my God, I think the deductible went up from $2,500 to $25,000. I sent the town administrator a text, hey, just want to make sure we didn't
This
hear
seems
this.
wrong.
We didn't hear this
Yeah, but
wrong,
we didn't get any notification, so we thought that they were wrong.
and he said, no, that is accurate. It went up from $2,500 to $25,000. I asked why, and he said, in order to keep our premiums where they were at and to keep costs where they're at, the deductible had to increase across the town from $2,500 to $25,000.
So this would make making sure our capital improvement projects are really up there, like that we're keeping a very good.
That would make sure, for a lot of things, would make sure our capital improvement projects are being funded. It would need to make sure that our bottom line is being funded.
Yeah, keeping
Last
little
year,
contingency funds in our
Right.
brains, you know what I mean? Know how kind of use that?
Right.
Which we'll get to in a minute, but,
last
yeah.
year, and again, we'll talk about this.
Huge difference.
Last year, one of the things Courtney and I went to probably a half dozen Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee meetings was to put a school-wide facilities audit on the warrant article for Springtown meeting. One thing we have, and Courtney did the math, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have something like over a quarter to close to 500,000 square footage of building space. We have over 475 different rooftop units that probably have 27 different styles associated with them. We have something like 400 different, I think you said toilets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we counted the
I remember you
toilets, the
talking about the
faucets.
toilets.
Anything of the hundreds and thousands of times they're flushed and used, and, there aren't any town buildings that have that kind of,
It's
except for
massive.
schools.
If you just,
know?
I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're sitting, our office is in the
Yeah.
middle school, there are 325 kids who walk those halls every day. On the way to the cafeteria, we have second chance breakfast every day, and we have lunch every day. There are 700 people who walk in that little strip, 700 day, not counting teachers who go to and through there, parents are coming through there, we're going through there, custodians. There's a lot of foot traffic. A lot of the town buildings don't see that volume on a town day. So we thought it was really important to put it, for Springtown meeting, a warrant article to do a facility-wide audit, to have a company who has expertise in putting together a plan that says, in the next 3 years, you need to do this, in the next 5
They
years,
have
you
the
need to do that,
expertise.
and in the next 10 years, you need to do this, and they would lay out a plan. I think the cost was roughly about $50,000.
Or it could be more, depending on
Depending
how-
on
the
the-
information that we brought, depending
Correct.
on the extent.
And we thought it was good information for us to have, so as we're
And
putting
to
together.
inform people in their decision-making process.
Correct. So as
Yeah.
Capital's getting ready to do their plan, and we're getting ready to do our plan, we would have experts in the field who do that. For whatever reason, the decision was made not to put it on as, in the Springtown meeting. So again, that was a $50,000, $60,000 plan, and obviously, we didn't want to do the plan if there wasn't also a follow-up commitment to implement
Right.
the plan, because what good is a $50,000 audit that sits on a closet
And then it's no good, because now it's outdated.
if you're not going to do anything?
You gotta throw
with
it away and start
So we
over
also
again.
understand that
Spend
by,
money again on it,
but
yeah.
that's coming
And I-
up down the pipe.
Yeah, I am going to be updating, as I stated, I believe at the last meeting, that I'll be bringing, have it under my report, that we'll be talking about, capital, what's been done in the past, what's been submitted, what's been funded, not funded, and information on that as well. And we did, and I will be also providing what we sent over to the CIP, the capital improvement plan, because what was kind of timely is we did get from the torrential downpours that we had last December and January. Actually, Maya prepared a roof report on all our buildings, which was wonderful. So of course, I sent that to the town as part of our package. And also, I happened to go on the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority's website, and they did issue an RFP, which just ended at the very end of our fiscal year here, and implemented in July. And we are on the list, all of our school buildings for MSBA, as part of the RFP, the state's paying for it, to come and do an assessment of the buildings. I said,
Wonderful.
thank goodness for
Wonderful.
that we'll have somebody that understands that you have to do that for planning.
Right.
You can't even figure out what you can pay for, what not to pay for, or even how to, the more that you know about what you need to do, and you have the requisite skill set to do it, the expertise, which I do not. Okay, I do not have that. And neither does anyone, it is a real expertise. In fact, it's a requirement to do that if MSBA is going to give any state funding, and for that reason, you want to have expert information in which to make informed decisions. But also, the other thing is there are, as far as looking at funding mechanisms, I know when I was finance director in Uxbridge, one of the things that you would utilize is what's called excess debt capacity. And that's where if you already have a certain amount of debt, principal and interest, incorporated in an overall municipal budget, you usually want to keep it that way so that you can merge projects in, because there's never going to be a time when there aren't projects to be done. So what you do is you utilize what's called that excess debt capacity, and you structure your debt accordingly so that you can keep getting things done, so things don't get so bad that you're paying 10 times more, 5 times more, because you're not addressing it. And so that's, you have your excess debt capacity, but also when you're doing your bond issue, you can structure things along the lines of the useful life of the project. You can actually, when you issue bonds, even though you have one debt and interest that's due every year, you structure the bond accordingly so that you have over a 10-year period. If it's a useful life 10 periods, you pay the bond over 10 periods. If it's 30 years, you pay 30 years. The other thought behind that is that you don't want to, if you use, one-time monies to pay for something that's large now, but yet it's something that's going to last for 20, 30 years, it's being paid by taxpayers, regardless of it's all taxpayer money, federal, state, local fee, whatever it is, right?
Comes out of our checks.
So instead of just trying to do it all with current funds, it's future taxpayers that are going to enjoy the benefit of all of those services down the line. You're spreading those costs over not only the useful life of the asset, but the usability of the asset and who's using it over a period of time, you know? But starting with a survey of your buildings and a really comprehensive, you know, that has a requisite skill set and the expertise to really look at things. We recently found out at our primary school, we're actually looking at having, you know, we had that report, we know, the primary school, I've been talking about it since I've been here for 13 years, when we go to these planning, the capital planning meetings. And primary school is very old, it needs to be taken care of, knock on wood, it has been, because they built them really great back then. But now our roof is in such a condition that we really have some serious issues. That's why we were trying to get the roof on there, along with also the survey done. So also, it's going to cost more because the codes have changed. The thickness of the insulation is different now, so it becomes more costly as well. So, you know, it can be frustrating sometimes, but I will provide the school committee, and going forward, we'll make sure that you guys are aware and apprised of everything that is going to the CIP. I apologize, I didn't get it on this meeting. We were concentrating on all the financial things, but at the next meeting, I will provide that to you, along with some thoughts that Paul and I have come up with. In fact, I'll be getting to that as we go through more with my reports here. Sorry, we've kind of, yep, that's just that part there. Yep.
Chair, may I jump in? Ms. Keegan, not that I want to add to your plate, but would it make sense to reach out to surrounding districts to see if their insurance deductibles went up? Because this is just as, I find it to be alarming. And
Oh, we can certainly do that.
I mean, I guess I'm just
We can
curious,
certainly
does this
do
happen
that.
across the board, especially in our region? Like, is this an insurance thing, or is this a Douglas thing? That would be my question.
Yeah,
It'd be a great exercise to do, to see what happens and have a follow-up conversation.
just
to ask.
to find out the area,
I just think maybe
yeah,
it could spark some conversation, or maybe everybody else is in the same exact boat.
yeah.
It'd be interesting too, as a taxpayer, to know what would the premium cost have been without increasing the deductible, right? Like, when I look at my health insurance and I have to pick a plan, if I pick the one with the highest deductible, that's not always my best bet. Sometimes it's better to, you know what I mean? Like,
But to be clear,
we don't have any
right,
we don't
it's
have
not in
any
our purview
control
in any
over
way.
that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But it would be good to get that information, just to see, you know,
How,
yeah.
oh, this is such a late meeting, and maybe you guys can educate me at another time, but my question would be, how, this comes out of our budget, the school budget? How is it not part of our purview? That is a ton of money.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the town 100% handles the insurance program,
Sure, but I
right?
think
Yeah,
that
that's
we
what
should
I meant.
have a
I just
seat at
meant
the
that.
table,
I
is
just
my
meant
thought.
that. But certainly it does affect, oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, so I think this
Absolutely.
is something that we.
Yeah.
I'm all about spending more money, but not on tax
Yeah.
deductibles. To me, I would rather that money go towards the students and the education or the school enrichment program, not because we need to keep it somewhere, because something may happen or inevitably will happen. I mean, that's just such a
Well,
large
and
amount of
I
money.
think it's a good thing to bring up to the taxpayers to go get those answers from the town as to maybe why that
I
decision was.
think we're entitled to those answers, because this is coming out of the school's
The
budget.
school's budget, yeah.
God forbid something happens.
It is
more
a
than happy.
huge increase. It really
Yeah.
is.
We're not talking
We
$10,
wouldn't be,
but-
exactly, we wouldn't even be having the conversation if it
Right.
were just,
I'm
right?
alarmed for you.
If it went from 2,500, even something, but to go, yeah.
A year of bad luck with last year's, yes, it would hurt, but a year of bad luck with this new deductible.
It could be 100,000 to 200,000.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be more than happy to reach
Staff.
out
I mean, it
to the
comes down
town
to our
administrator to get some more information, have them draft something, and we
Yeah,
can
just
discuss
so we
it
can, yeah.
at the next.
That's a good idea, because we don't want to speak, because we
at the
aren't
next-
privy, right?
Yeah, at the
exactly.
next meeting.
Yeah.
And again, to your point, because we can't go back and control the past, we weren't part of the conversations, but, you know, for a $10, $15 increase, I don't think we need to have a seat at the table for an increase that could potentially impact a department. And again, this goes to police, fire, highway, library, that could potentially impact a department, $100,000 to $150,000.
So that's across the board, so it's anything in Douglas, if
Well,
they
let me-
file a
let me-
claim.
Let me check with my
We should
co-counsel.
maybe
Let me
clarify
double check
that
it, but I
as
think the
well.
deductibles for the entire town.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think so,
Yeah.
I think so, but we can clarify
Agreed,
that,
but
just
as
make
the,
sure, confirm.
The people who have the most buildings in the town.
Correct.
Oh,
It
for sure,
affects
for
us
sure.
the most.
and is that like it's per coin, but is there a max? Is there a town max?
That's another very good question. See, we got no, yeah, so.
Yeah, I know you guys got no answers, and here we're like peppering you. You're sitting on the hot seat, and I'm looking.
Oh, no,
at you
no,
over
that,
here,
no,
it's
no, these are
like-
excellent
No,
questions.
that's a good question. If there's
That's
a
why you
max,
guys are really good.
can
We
the
all put our
town
heads
hit the
together.
max and then we,
Then it's
you know,
100
yeah.
because of us. Because we
Like a high deductible plan.
No, that's an excellent question, thank you. You know, we.
I'll ask
put our
the
heads
town
together here.
administrator to put something together, and I
Yeah.
can bring it, if not to the next meeting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Whatever
mean,
it
it's
is,
not going to
October.
change, but maybe we can, going forward, we can maybe change it back.
But as you say, understanding the why is important.
Yeah, that is, right, exactly, yeah. Yeah. Okay, any more questions about that? No? Okay. All
I
righty.
thought that was just going to be a quick FYI.
Well, I don't know if I thought that, because the number is staggering, you know, but, okay, so, unfortunately, I looked through the packet, and I don't believe that my, the high school student activity fund audit final ended up in the packet, unless you guys have it, I don't.
No.
No, okay, so we'll include it in next meeting. I can let you know in advance, there were no findings, everything went fine, but I will do it in the.
Didn't think
we'll
it
do
would
in the
be
next-
any different.
Well, you never know, but we do try hard, we do try. So the next report that we do on an annual basis is after we reconcile, close out the books, reconcile everything. So this is the FY 2024 School Department Funds Report. So at the top, we have the operating budget and transportation budget, that's the general fund. And as you can see, there was just over 108,000 left in the transportation budget. Now, that's voted just, Julia, just so that you're aware, that's voted as a separate warrant article, so that just throws out. So that is a separate warrant article. Next one down is our revolving funds. You have beginning balance, receipts, expenditures, encumbrances. You know, our fund balance, then the cash balance that Jean puts over to the right. And on the top one, school lunch, you'll see a pretty good balance there. Now, back in the day, before you know what, which we will not mention, a lot of times, you know, you're either running in the red, revenues never hit expenditure. I mean, it's a lot of school lunch programs nationwide, et cetera, et cetera. So as you can see, we have been able to build up a balance. So we will be doing some wonderful, and I'll be reporting on that when I go over the capital stuff, because you're not supposed to, and again, you're not supposed to build up a war chest, or you'll be written up on all that. So we have done a bunch of wonderful things. We did the middle school serving line to the tune of, it was around $45,000. That was just done over the summertime. We do have a list of other things that we're also going to be doing. So everything, you know, is looking good and about where, you know, it is each year. There aren't any things to be concerned with. You see, school choice does have I never have a crystal ball, so I never know how the balance is going to end. It does depend on a wide array of things. In other words, even say if you have a very large special ed tuition in the general fund, that could make things swing, you know, by a couple $100,000 just one way or the other, so.
Or you have 5 additional new claims for the building.
Right, yes, exactly. Well, actually, yeah, I had to pay just this week, just processed the warrant with over $25,000 for that one that we just did. And that came out of school choice.
Because we use that to operate, not like everybody else does for extras.
Correct.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. And, you know, as you bring that up, Beth, and we bring that up all the time on purpose, thank you, because we do want to remind people, I always have to try to think prospectively, but yet I don't have that crystal ball. So I am prudently conservative the further out we go, you know. I'm going to be more conservative with that. The next section down is donations. We did do really well, as you can see in the expenditure column, getting people to spend down, you know, donations that were sitting there for a little while, some of them miscellaneous and things of that nature. So we went from the beginning balance of $14,000, we just received receipts of $5,452, but we brought that down to just over $6,000, so that was good. On the next page, we have the prior year grants, and we also have had the FY24 current year grants for that fiscal year as well. We see the negatives, you can see, you know, we did have a request for funds, you see that column there, and they have, with the new system, they actually cut you off from being able to request funds, and you have to wait until they open up the window again, so we will do that before the grants get completely closed out. That applies to ESSER 3. I did get that through all the reclasses that you saw that we voted on last time, we got that all spent down. as we did with a few other grants as well. Does anyone have any questions thus far? Julia, do you have any questions on, because I know this is new to you? On the dollar amounts in the grants column, over right next to the title of the grant, that's the original amount of the grant, just so that we have that there, okay? Because you know how these grants these days, they can roll over and roll over, yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
And it might not be, this might not be the right time, but
go ahead.
has there been any more talk about,
Have it happened?
you gotta move more. Woo! There we go. 30-second dance party.
We're in the
About the circuit breaker increases on the out-of-district tuitions, that there was gonna be there was talk.
Yeah,
None of that's come to, okay.
No.
Okay.
just like the 14%, the reimbursement factor that never.
That's,
came through.
okay. Okay.
Yep, a good question. Does anyone else have any other questions? Just the year-end balances from reconciliation. And the last page, last but not least, is just the middle school and the high school amounts in both the checking and savings and the student activity fund accounts. Okay, next one down, this is for you to look at when you are having a hard time falling asleep. This is just this is just a clean report. So you know all those transfers that I did that a lot of people don't do, but we just have to have a clean report. So I'm going to write down to everything is cleaned up. It's just, I don't know.
Thank you for.
Anyway.
We get an A+.
You do.
I see a lot of 100%s.
Sometimes I wonder why we still do that, but I don't know many people that do that. But anyway, so the next one down is, this is something that we do, Julie, I don't know if you've seen this yet since you've been here. So I provide this throughout the budget process and at year end. So this is just kind of, I do a lot of trend analysis documents, so this is one of them for school choice, and I've got it going way, but you know. So I have a number of years here. So you'll have the actuals for each year, beginning balance, regular tuition, special ed increment. Definitely want to break those out for a very good reason, because it can vary widely with the special ed increment. And then I have the budgeted expenditures, like for the, when everything that's italicized, that's budget only, it's not actual, so anything that's not an actual, that's an estimate, projection, is always italicized. So all of the columns up through FY '24 are actual numbers. So in the expenditure, the 623,481, that's what it ended up being. But then down below, I put just so that you'll see what we actually budgeted. You know, and it can vary wildly. Because, you know, we're doing the budget a year and a half before that year end. You can't know a whole year and a half what's going to happen. Things change every single day with staffing, you know, increase in a salary, decrease in a salary, vacancy savings, or, you know, more subs, or many different things, special education or contractual services in special education. A number of things, especially with what we're dealing with you know, various things going on that we've been discussing. There have been additional costs with that as well, contractual services and things of that nature. And I end up paying for them out of either general fund or school choice. The next one is circuit breaker, same thing, trend analysis on that as well. And again, I try to keep some data below on the number of eligible students and the calculations that are posted on DESC website, so you can see there. And also the percentage, or at least they're up to that 75%. They have been for several years, where before for years, they never were up to that.
You're looking at a huge, a significant decrease you're projecting a significant decrease in 2025.
Yeah, remember, remember, this was during the budget process.
Right.
And it's a year and a half in advance, so I'm always going to be prudently conservative, and then I update as I get more information.
No, I think like kids aging
Yeah.
out of our programming.
Yeah.
In now doing this, it took me a couple years to get the system. And I still don't follow, she sighs, so she's worried about what I'm going to say.
No, I'm just thinking of the dialogue process.
The dialogue process can be very spirited, let's just say. So it's the push-pull between, the closer we get to the end of the school year, the less conservative we can be, because the variables are obviously less as a result of time. There are so many things that can occur that we don't even know of or can predict between now and the end of the year. So as you see, we have amount budgeted $14 million for FY '25, all right? That number could go up, could go down. We have 3 or 4 claims. We have,
Oh, we have an inspection over the summertime. We have inspections. We had to spend over $45,000 for the DHS oil tank to repair. I have to do it. It
So-
has to get done.
so obviously, as the
You know,
year,
there's a lot of
can't
things
wait
throughout the
until
year.
next year when
We
we have
have to do
money.
it. We can't go to
So-
the town. I have to make sure that for you guys, for him, for all of us, that we can open our buildings and we can operate.
so the conversation for
No,
us
it's
as
not
we
easy.
start the budget process, as she says, around December, January, I think we can do $1 million in school choice. Then 2 weeks later, I go, Courtney, how about another $100,000? She said, I'm comfortable with 75. Then I go back another 2 weeks later, she says, we can't do anything right now. And I go, so again, as you get closer to the school year, so looking at that projected FY '25, it's going to be uber conservative right now. As we get to the middle and the end of the school year,
Yeah.
it'll get.
That's better, I would rather be conservative.
Correct.
Oh, God, then to be on the other end.
And it took me a few years to get the system,
Well,
but
because
I
it's
trust it.
complicated.
Yeah, it is
And part of the
complicated.
reason why is that school choice
Look at that
account.
We figure
Say
that
if
out
we
tomorrow.
run over in general fund, it's school choice is gonna do it. If you have an insurance claim, it's school choice. If something breaks, it's school choice. If I have a large repair, I can't go and get the money, it's school choice. I can't predict those things. And so I do have to be,
Just like we
and just so
can
you
at our
know.
homes.
Right, exactly. And Julia, just so you know too, this is, and I actually stole, or as Mary Tyler would say, appropriated, both of these documents from another business manager, and I love them and I use them. So, that contingency line, that's there, it's not really, the reason that I have that there is just to get people thinking, because you see a line for contingency, so it's in our mindset that we need to be thinking about having money aside. There's no magic dollar amount, but it's that thought process of all the things that can happen throughout an entire year in a school district with 4 buildings, So that's all that's about, so. Okay, the next one down, a couple of other trend analysis documents that I do, is 2 of our largest programs, and that is preschool and school lunch. So the first one is preschool. Again, this is just all the actuals. Did not do the projection column yet for that. I did have it, but I use a different document. I'm trying to rush too much to do too many things. I apologize. But anyway, you have this is about the closing out. So you do have right through FY '24 actuals there. So you can see that we are a little bit in the negative as far as, revenue not covering expenditures, but you can see we have a good fund balance there. So, I'm always doing this, again, between general fund and the revolving fund, and depending on what the school committee or the superintendent or principals are looking for, I might try to put more in the, but it's a balancing act. It's definitely a balancing act. You can see, if you look at the total other funding sources down below, general fund and grant, aside from the revolving fund, which is at the top, it does vary greatly. It's dependent on what situation we were in financially. Because, Julia, just so that you know, we've had some humongous changes. From 2018, in 2018, it was a pretty, I would say, dire situation. Then we did have an override. It brought us, I hate to say it this way, but instead of look 10 feet up, look at 10 feet under, look it up to see the bottom, it was 6 feet under. But we've made a lot of stride. The town, town support, economic development on the town side, school choice, various really good positive things have happened for a number of years now. And I feel we're reaping the benefits. We've been able to do so many things the last few years, which is fabulous. But it's that balancing act. In the last one.
Did we raise
Sorry?
preschool fees this year? We did, right? No, we didn't raise it?
No, we kept them the same.
Okay.
Yep. And last but not least, this is just the school lunch historical trend. And you can see the big difference there. 2018, beginning fund balance, just under 46,000, and it's now 215. So that's mostly because of, I hate to say that word, but you know what?
Yep.
Just the funds coming, from the federal and state government. And now with free lunch and, a lot of things. And we got some grants, which we couldn't get before. So, doing very well there. So I can tell you from the time that I started here, I've been here almost 13 years, we really have made some great strides as a town and as a school district, financially and with what we've been able to offer. I can probably say that for the entire town, really. And And I think we get so mired in, what we like, what we get, sometimes we really, capital is something that, definitely needs some more funding, I guess, attention, whatever, but really, I think the town as a whole, school department as a whole, I think we're doing far better than we were. We've been able to implement so many things that we were talking about actually today at our leadership team meeting. Does anyone have any questions about the trend documents? Okay.
Just want to say thank you for you and your team's work, because this is a lot of work. And I know sometimes we kind of beat you up a little bit, Courtney, but
No, you don't, no.
We have a lot of questions.
we have a lot of questions.
Yeah, but that's good, that's what you're here for. And how many times have I said, Paul, that we feel we have a really good school committee? And I say that with all sincerity, and I think I did say this to you guys before, and I did thank you for it, but that's okay. But you know why? I'll tell you why, and this is a phrase that I use all the time, and I know he knows what's coming, because I really feel that you all try to do the right things for the right reasons, and you can't get better than that. And you ask excellent questions, you think of things that we didn't think of, and it's more of a team thing, and we're all trying to do the same thing for what? Our students. So that's all good. That's all good, and I appreciate it, so, thank you.
We appreciate you. I mean,
Thank you.
again, this is impressive. I mean, my head's spinning. A lot of numbers, but I've got full faith in you and your team, because I can just tell, I don't think you ever sleep. I think this is what you dream about.
It is.
Maybe not, maybe not.
It is.
And the fact, we haven't had to lay anybody off.
And, if you look at what
A
happened.
lot of positives, there's another one, a lot of positives.
And we're not where we want to be, and we all know that.
But there is.
But we're in a good place,
We're-
we're in a
I
really,
mean,
we are.
especially considering what a lot of other schools are, I'm sure, we all see it, what a lot of other schools are facing with staffing, and with like, they're told, we can't, 160 teachers in the district, we have to let go. We didn't have to let anybody go.
I mean, if you just look
We
at the
added
past
people.
We try to be careful, too.
If you just look at the past 3 or 4
Like we were
years,
saying.
we were able to add, just last year, 4 additional staff members. The way we're providing professional development to staff has changed. We actually brought someone in yesterday to do some professional development for our special education department. STAR is brand new, K-12. Panorama is brand new here. Just trying to think of some other things. You'll see coming up, we're going to be
one-to-one
doing
program.
the one-to-one initiative.
Yeah.
That first, the money came out of ESSER funds. Now we've been able
Got
to put that,
incorporated.
incorporate
New
that
SIS
into the budget,
system.
new SIS system. We're going to be doing a lot with some capital improvements through school choice, even just looking at where our food service department has come. And again, I spend a lot of time in the cafeteria, and I might say it wrong, but, a lot of times we could only buy things off of the commodity list because we got a discount on it, and we were scared to go out and try something new.
You couldn't.
Because you were spending 100 cents on the dollar, and if kids didn't eat it, you saw the balance, you could go out. Now having that additional fund balance, we can go out and
Yeah.
try
Yes,
some
new
new things.
things. Oh, God,
One thing
yes.
that Allison talked about is, she did things, and she incorporated a lot into classes, like trying new foods, and she was doing, like, was it like an apricot with honey and brown sugar, and doing a lesson with kids, and doing it
Different
seasonally.
types of squash.
Different types of
Yeah, yeah,
squash.
yeah,
So just
yeah.
trying different things.
She loves the nutritional educational component, too, like Raquel did, which is
important.
fabulous.
I
Yeah,
go
it
back
really
to
is.
when we started
Yeah.
here at the primary school. Their food was all the Browns. It was chicken nuggets, hot dogs, pizza, hamburgers, fish sticks.
Don't forget the macaroni and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese. It was everything, everything. We've been able to add some variety to that, and sometimes the kids like it, sometimes they don't, but even have the ability. We did chicken stir fry a couple of years ago. The kids didn't like it, but then we put it in the Chinese takeout boxes.
It was a whole
I remember
dish.
It was a whole different
It
thing,
was a
same
whole
food, different
different dish.
packaging, right? But we wouldn't have had that
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah.
to buy those 5 years ago, and now we do. And that's, we joke about, we hear about the prudently conservative, but being that prudently conservative has put us in this spot. Do we wish we had more money? Absolutely. you know, you look at the comp reform we've done for the majority of our bargaining units
That
as we
as
get.
well,
As we
to be
get
able
ready
to
to do it
obtain and
for
retain.
for our
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
teachers is incredible. You know, we even jumped first step in our last negotiation with the teachers. We increased that first step by close to, I think, 10% to be able to obtain and retain new staff. So again, lots of great things and conversations that weren't occurring here because we didn't have the ability to do so 10
couldn't
years
do
ago,
anything. Yeah.
that now we can. Do we wish we had more money? Absolutely, but I don't think there's a district in the Commonwealth
Right.
that, regardless of what their per pupil is, didn't wish they had an extra couple $100,000.
But it is important to recognize and acknowledge what we have done and we have been able to do, you know? And the taxpayers should celebrate that as well. Parents, you know, townspeople, and the town's effort that they put in as well. Everybody played a part in that, and it's something to celebrate, to acknowledge. And, you know, there's always something, but you know what? We've done a lot. And then the other thing I want to mention too is that with the food service, there's been a humongous change for the good in that. When we brought on Raquel, and then Allison is a lot the same. There were both have that nutrition background, master's degree in nutrition, and she's finishing up now, Allison. And both the academic component of it, wanting to try new things and really excited about it. So I really do want to thank you again for supporting
cooking, a lot of
us with the salary, because I was not able to get anybody, and I wanted the same, because we got used to having that for 2 years, and I didn't want to let go of that. So thank you again. It's going to be wonderful going forward.
Just want to jump in here, and I know that we probably want to wrap up soon, but about the food service director and the food in general, I have to applaud everybody in the CAF. Simply, my son, you know, is a bit of historically a picky eater, and every day I ask him, like, it's the one thing I can get an answer out of. I'm like, what do you have for lunch?
That funny?
And he's telling me all these different things he's trying. Some are wins and some are not, but he's trying. He's trying them. Like, he's actually going up
Yeah.
there, not getting just cereal, right? Like, which would be a go-to, which he knows, but he's trying new things. He's like, oh, I tried baked beans with cheese on them. Turned out it was chili.
You can call it what you want.
I was like, this is so weird. So then I looked at the menu. I was like, oh, it's chili, dude. But he still tried it. And
Yeah, that's
I mean,
great.
Kudos to them, because they're
Right.
getting kids to try new things. And nutrition, I mean, they're going to remember
Very
that for
important.
the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That foundation, I think we should spend more time on it. So
Yeah.
really kudos to everybody. And I'm excited to see what they're going to have for lunch tomorrow.
And the staff, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say, and the staff has been wonderful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I said it before, but just one more thing, is that if I didn't say it before, I do want to say it, that while I didn't have, you know, I had, you know, when we had that, not staff, and I had an interim, but she could only do Saturdays, whatever, and so I had to do a lot of things to work directly. They did a fabulous job, the managers and the staff. I'll tell you, it was wonderful to see them just step right in, step right up. And they appreciated even my calling the subs at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and you know, it was a great, you know, so I made sure that I let Allison know that. You know, they did a fabulous job. You've got great managers and staff, and, you know.
Kudos to them.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So we got a lot of good things.
And more good news we'll celebrate next week when we meet.
Wonderful. Do we have any topics not yet decided? All right, well, if nobody has anything, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn at 9:02 PM.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you.